All right, hello everyone, and welcome to an episode of Dear Dr. Fantasy. And for my very special guest today, it is none other than J.C.M. Berne, but I call him Joe. Hey Joe,
Please
how are
do. Hey, it's such an honor to be here. You are one of my favorite reviewers and booktubers, and when you do the videos with AP Canavan, it's always goes to the top of the queue instantly. It's like, oh, nope, that's
you?
been released. That's what I'm watching right now. If I have work to do, it's work's gonna have to wait. So don't tell my boss I said that. Oh, we're recorded too, so kidding,
Oopsies.
boss. Oopsies.
I do
So
have a lot of fun with the Nemesis, that's for sure.
you have great content and I learn things from them, which is,
Yeah.
a different thing than in addition to the entertainment value, there's also the educational value, and that's always a wonderful extra added points.
We do try to make some sense when
Yes.
we have those discussions in
Yeah, it's good
between
stuff.
insulting each other. Yeah.
Very gently, very gently insulting.
So, so it is really great to have this opportunity to sit and chat with you. We've interacted some here and there, but never had the chance to really have a discussion together. So
No,
I'm really
that's
looking
I've
forward
been
to this a
thrilled.
lot. We have a
Me
lot in
too.
common too, because
Yes.
we are both indie authors, and I think we
Hmm.
have a lot to commiserate about in that realm. But you also
Yeah.
have a YouTube channel, and that is, I
Yeah.
mean, it's something that you obviously do to engage with the community around here.
Yeah.
And I will have a link, of course, to that channel in the
Oh,
description.
thank you.
But
Thank you.
yeah, I mean, it's a question came up. I wanted to ask you about this as a fellow indie author who's out there, slogging away on social media, all of that. Bookborn recently made a video. I don't know if you saw her video or not, about this idea that a lot of the influencers, I hate the word
Oh,
influencer,
oh, 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 oh.
a lot of the influencers getting book contracts and that sort of thing without even maybe necessarily having even a book written,
Oh,
or
oh.
or there may be a question of merit or lack thereof, but popularity wins the day, all that. But along with all this comes these questions of, okay, are we reviewers? Are we authors? Can we mix that sort of thing? And my response to that, I'll tell you about mine, but I want to hear what you think about all that, about being an author who is now encroaching, if we can use a negative word, on reviewer spaces and that sort of thing. So how do we navigate? How do we, as an indie author, what wisdom have you gained in terms of navigating this realm or these realms?
You're gonna get me in trouble, right?
Good,
So
good,
I gotta
good.
be very careful what I say. Influencers shouldn't write books, damn it. No, I'm kidding.
Right.
This so there's a lot of things to contend with, right? There's a certain level of jealousy that's going to happen because if like let's take you. I'm gonna use you as the example,
Oh
and
no.
please let me
I
finish
guess
before, right?
that's part of
You
yes.
got no, look, let's be fair. You got more eyes on Way of a Dan because of your booktube channel than you would have had you been simply. I don't mean that in a pejorative way, but if you had been a sort of an English
I just
professor at
say
a
I'm the
community
boring
college.
guy, the boring
You're
guy
not
that
a
I
boring guy,
am.
but
Yeah.
there were people you knew through your non-booktube life in your community, but that's a relatively small number of people, right? Same as So you had more eyes right off the bat on Way of a Dan than you would have had you been. And let's also be fair, like so there's
100%.
some jealousy. There's always going to be some jealousy involved, and you see it in like some of the back channels where someone has like this platform and they get a deal, either a trade deal or they get a big release, and people on writer channels like I can't, like I can't, this guy has this many pre-orders. I can't get this many views after being out for 6 months,
Yeah.
even though, but like, also, let's be fair, you're not going to build a career on that if your writing's not good. Like you're not gonna like break out and become a best-selling author and have all the, you're not gonna become Ryan Cahill, right? That's always my metric for like
Uh-huh.
indie sales success, like volume. And I'm not saying he's a great writer, but in the sense that I think he's like the target, right? He's like the money we'd all like to be making is Ryan Kyle. That's how I think about it, right? Or Matt
Sure.
Dinniman money, right?
Why not? Why not?
You're not going to get there if just because you have a YouTube channel with 50,000 subscribers, if your book's not good, right? So you have to slow your roll and be like, yes, there is a step up, which is earned, right? People here,
It's
because
not like a
your
YouTube
presence on
channel just falls in your lap either, you know.
it does. I mean, well, yeah, not with any kind of success, right? Because if you don't work at it and you don't have the right kind of personality, you can end up with like mine, where I have 184 subscribers because I do a video every 2 months when I feel like yelling at the clouds about a topic, and that's fine. Like, I'm not complaining, right?
Yeah.
I don't put anywhere near as much work into it as you have, and I have far less success to show for it, which is totally fair. But so you're going to contend with some level of jealousy, and then the other side of it is people have to sort of realize that I feel like if you pursue influencing in order to sell your book, it doesn't really usually work long term. I see these people flame out because it's like people ask me because I do a lot on Twitter. I don't know how much that actually sells in terms of books, but I'm on Twitter a lot. I'm on Blue Sky a decent amount. And people are like, well, man, it's so hard. How do you motivate yourself to do it? I'm like, no, no, no. I like doing that. I like, I'll think of something funny and like, you know, if I was in an office, I used to have a cubicle in an office, right? And I'd be like, I'd just yell out jokes because you're in a cubicle and people would laugh or not laugh depending on the joke, right? And now I don't have. I'm by myself in a house. If I'm lucky, I've got a spotted lanternfly to hear my joke. That's about the best I'm going to get.
Yeah.
So I'll tweet it. But this, I like it. I like that engagement. I enjoy even the stir. I don't get into. I get into the drama, but I always get into the drama with a wink. Like I'll write something. Can't believe people are still skipping prologues, but it's almost a joke, right? Like
Right,
you're
right.
not pointing a finger at a person saying this is a bad person. You're just making this sort of general. It's
Yeah.
almost a meta joke, the book drama on Twitter. So if you don't enjoy it, it's not going to do as well for you as you think. And honestly, if you try to become an influencer and start a booktube channel in order to sell books, I think we all know at this point you're much better off mastering Facebook ads than starting a YouTube channel if your goal is sales, right? Like it's just not an efficient way to make a lot of money. It's just, I mean, it'll work for some people,
Neither
but
is writing, by the way, for most
well,
people.
that's true. Writing is a terrible. Like I always tell people, some people like someone will quit writing, or someone will be on Twitter like, "Oh, don't quit, stick to it." And I'm like, if you can quit, please quit because it's so unrewarding and hard and so much work for so little return for almost all of us. If
Yeah.
you don't feel like a need to do it, don't, right? Like,
Yeah.
please go do something else. Not everyone needs to write books, right? There's plenty of books, right? It's okay. I mean, if someone wants to do it, I'll support them. If
Yeah.
I don't know, I really want to write, great, I'll help. If I can help, I'll help. I don't know. No one needs my help, but I'm just saying, like, I'll support that fully. But if someone can quit, I'm like, do it. I wish I could quit sometimes. Like, I feel compelled to write this story now, and that's like, it's a lot of work. Sometimes I'd like to take a nap or something instead.
Yeah, yeah. My advice for any 99% of people 99.999% of people who
Yeah.
go into this is don't do it because you think you're going to make money. If
Yeah.
that's your
Oh yeah.
motive, you do something else real fast.
And
But
and
if,
and
if
that,
you
and that's
love it, if
yes,
you
sir.
love it,
Yeah.
then go for it. If it's your passion,
Yeah.
you have to do it.
I know people who are trying to write books because they kind of like to write and they need to pay some bills. And I'm like, oh, I see them on like Discord forums, and I'm just like, I wish you luck, but man, that is a tough road. Like I don't know, have you looked into like
Yeah.
baristaing baristaing is like such a stereotype, but I don't know, work in a car wash. I don't know, but
You will make more money doing either of those things than you will writing a book. Yeah.
but part of the problem is they see the breakouts, right? Because there are people who make quite a,
Right.
they see the Ryan Kyles, right? And they're like,
Right.
oh, well, if Ryan can do it, so can I. And like, I can't prove that you can't, right? There's nothing I can say up front. Oh no, you're no Ryan Kyle. Like I can't prove that. But most of those people, they're not, right? Ryan's unique. So
Yeah.
he's not unique. That's what lots of people are making lots of money, but very few compared to the number of people that are trying. So
Right. Right. Yeah. I don't know
yeah,
the percentage, but I think it's way less than 1% of
yeah,
people
yeah, yeah,
who are taking, the plunge and publishing and all
yeah.
that. First of all, a majority of them don't even see their money back, let alone
Oh,
get to be
I
a
I
Ryan
haven't.
or
Oh
whatever.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I know I've seen so many people. I'm just hoping to break even one day. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, that's not a moneymaker. That's the opposite, right?
Yeah.
Um,
It's an
but
expensive hobby.
yeah, oh my God, that's what I've realized. I think a year or two ago that's what this is. And if I can hope for more, but like really, it's probably never going to be more. But that's fine. That's fine for me, right? That's a personal choice everyone has to make.
And what's
But the
interesting
other
too, I
side,
just want to
sorry,
interrupt, lest people get the wrong impression. you actually write really well too. Like your
Thank you.
book's
You're
fantastic.
super
We're going to talk
kind.
about Wistful Ascending in a bit.
Sure.
It's a really great book.
I can't thank you enough. That
It's
means a huge
well
amount to me
crafted.
because I know there are people who are cheerleaders in the reviewing community, and there's nothing wrong with that. I love those
Right.
people. That's great, but you are not one of them. And so for you to say that, it means a little that there are certain people that I really want to like my book, not because they have 50,000 subscribers, right? I mean, that's always like that'd be great if someone bookborn, right? I met her the other week, right? She has not read any of my books. I almost got her to read my book because it was in her slot in Spiffbo. And it
Oh,
was like she had a guy like screen six books, Mac Nip, I think
yeah.
Mike. Anyway,
Is it this
and he
book?
had yeah, no, this was Wistful Ascending.
Oh,
It
it
was in
was
Spiffo
Wistful. Okay.
8.
Okay. Okay.
It was in Spiffo 8. And he
Okay.
was like, I can't decide between these two books. And he did a whole video. And at the end, he's like, I'm going to pick the other one. But he would
Uh,
almost end up in her lap. But I was thinking about this because she's a good example because like I would love for her to love my book and talk about it a lot and make a lot of sales. That'd be great.
sure.
But other than that, even if I would like for her to read it, even if she just messaged me privately and said like, you did the women right because
Yeah.
I always feel like women characters, right? There's certain people where if they say you did the women right, you're like, oh, I did the women right because this is validation. Like, I don't know if you know Books with Zara. She's another booktuber. Like, if
I do
she
know
said
her.
you did the women right, if she said you did the women right, I'd be like, okay, I can retire. Like I did you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
she's
And
so
she will
critical
be
on
very
men.
honest about it too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Zara loves to rip things apart.
Yeah.
That I love her channel. But like, but I feel like you're the Doctor Theme guy, right? So like,
Yeah.
if you're so there's always this fear that is what I've written just fluff, right? That's the fear, right? Is
Uh-huh.
it nothing wrong with fluff? But I wasn't. My goal was not to write just. It could be fluff also, but not just fluff. And I'm like, well, if Doctor Fantasy is okay with my book, it's not just fluff or it's not pure fluff. It can be 95% fluff. I'm okay with, but not 100% fluff. And I feel like you wouldn't give a stamp of approval to a book that was 100% fluff. So I was like, oh, so
I
it,
would
it
put very
warmed my
different
heart.
percentages too. And by the way, fluff can be great. I also
Yeah,
think that
yeah,
fluff, let's have fluff sometimes, you know,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
fluff is
yeah,
good.
yeah.
If
Oh
you
yeah,
want fluff, fluff is good.
oh yeah.
But this is not fluff at all, really.
No, no.
You've achieved is a book that
Thank you,
it has great entertainment value, first of all. You have a wonderful sense of
thank you.
people haven't figured out that you have a great sense of humor already. You have a great sense of humor. And there's some really beautiful character work in there that entails, I think, a good understanding of people and conflict. And you have a main character who has a past that weighs on him. And this is a big part of the journey that he's in the present, is trying to
Oh
become,
yeah.
can you become a better person? Can you transcend who you are according to everyone else? You know, because you are born a whatever. We can say it in this case, what's called a hybrid in
Yeah,
this world.
yeah.
Can you be something other than what people think a hybrid is, you know? And that's I think a beautifully explored facet of this story that you're just introducing in book one. Because by the way, Wistful Ascending is book one of a series, and it feels like both a really wonderful self-contained story, but also the introduction to
Mhm.
some things that I could feel like you're going to be exploring these things throughout these books. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. I almost finished book 8. I got through the big battle last night. I had a big writing day yesterday. I was like, oh, I got it out. I was like really crunching, and then
Congratulations.
thank
Yeah.
you. All I've left is like the denouement and then all the edits. But usually my edits are small once I get to this point. So no, it's designed to be a long series. I was really patterned after well, a lot of my favorite media are of all kinds are long, right? Like a lot of manga, like One Piece, right?
Yeah.
And someone's like, oh, you're writing trying to write a 20 books, 25 book series, like that's crazy. And I'm like, have
Yeah.
you seen One Piece? Like but it's not just One Piece, right? Like Lone Wolf and Cub was like 27 volumes, which is a
Sure.
lot of it's like 10,000 pages of graphic novel. Invincible's
Yeah.
thousand something right? So I grew up in the comic book world, maybe even more than the book world. I read books like since I was young, but I mean I read
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
lot of comics. Like time wise, I may have been more comics than books. I don't remember. Like I didn't track anything, but
As a kid, for me, it was
yeah,
90% comics,
yeah,
as a
yeah,
kid,
yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
So no one thinks twice that Superman's how many thousands of issues has Superman. Now the difference is, of course, Superman doesn't have a real arc. Most of the superheroes have these oh, there's a word for it where the character doesn't really develop from story to story, like James Bond or Conan, where it's just the same guy in
Yeah.
every. I forget the name for that, but
Yeah.
and that's not true in manga. A lot of manga, there's a development arc. Things change.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes maturity levels change. Certainly the power levels change. The story, like there's a progression.
You get a lot of
Um,
backstory in there as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 And so that was always my goal. So my goal was to make Wistful Ascending a self-contained book because honestly I was thinking of the Dresden Files. I like this. I like the
Uh-huh.
structure.
Yeah.
And that's my comp, right? Like when people ask like what I'm writing, like my favorite books are Malazan, right? Like I love those books. That's my favorite like series, but that's not a comp, right? Like I don't write anything like Steven Erikson. I'm not doing the same
I
things
mean,
he's
who
doing.
does
But
actually? I
the
mean,
only the closest I come is in book two. I go to a different planet with a different supporting cast. Rohan's still there, but everyone else has changed. I'm like, this is a Steven Erikson move. It's not really like it's very, but but I think my comp is always Jim Butcher, because he's got this like series of standalones,
uh-huh.
and you don't always get it early on. I don't know how much of it he really threaded through the first few novels, but by the time you get to books 12, 15, there's a story.
Yeah.
And these beautiful things unfold where these characters who had this motivation that you're not that far in the Dresden Files, are you?
I'm on book 9.
Okay, so you haven't seen some of it yet, but there are some characters of these who are behave in a way, and you sort of accept that that's just who they are, and then you find out, oh, there's actually a really good reason for it, and it all makes sense, and they're not
Uh-huh.
just being a jerk. There's a reason they're a jerk in this part, and it's beautiful because
Yeah.
there's something I love when it takes 10 books to get there. It's not just handed to you right
Yeah.
away, right? You like which is a Malazan thing.
But you do have to
But
give the reader something in book 1 in order for them
I
to keep
think
going. Yeah.
I used to joke. I used to say like it's all about like questions and answers, and I used to say you have to raise three questions, and then like in your first book, for every three questions raised, you have to answer two, and then in the first section of the book, it's like always like 3 to 2, or answer four and raise three towards the end, so that you catch up. And people are like, oh, do you keep like a spreadsheet? I'm like, no, I don't keep a spreadsheet. It's just like, but in your mind, you've got to write this. You got to say, if I'm raising, a whole bunch of questions in book one, I've got to answer most of them by the end of book one, but I can leave a few.
Yeah.
Right? And you have to leave a few, or no one wants book two, right? Because like,
Exactly.
oh, all the questions are answered, we're done, so I can go home and I can move on to the next thing on my shelf.
Yeah.
So that's just
Yeah.
a trick. So you leave a lot of little danglers, and then you leave danglers where it's not obvious to the reader that you're gonna come back to it, and then when you do, it's even more satisfying. Like this background character is just like almost like a throwaway, like a joke, and then you're like, come back, oh, there's a reason for that. And sometimes, you just leave little things dangling, and then you come back and pick them up because you can. And
Yeah.
you didn't
Yeah.
think of it.
But we
So,
mentioned comics and manga, and
oh yeah.
in terms of Wistful Ascending, it could be described as space opera, I suppose, science fiction. But what distinguishes it to me is that comic book influence that's in
Oh
there.
yeah.
Rohan
Yeah.
is reminiscent, and some of the stuff relevant to where he comes from and all of that it feels very superhero like, which is so
I
cool.
mean,
As somebody who grew up
the,
and loved
yeah.
comics,
Yeah.
I
I mean,
love
yeah.
seeing that in there. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Um, uh, the direct inspiration, the thing that really made me like I was reading it and I went, oh, I'm going to go write this story that takes this element was Invincible, which is a superhero comic. I don't know
Uh-huh.
if you've,
Uh-huh.
it's a newer one, but I mean,
Yeah.
Invincible is very much a straightforward superhero comic. It's not, it's,
Right.
it's trying to do the genre right. It's not a deconstruction. It's not like, oh, what if we had superheroes, but they were all evil? Like it really is. It's a superhero story, just a really good, a really solid one. I feel like if you're a person and you have never read an American superhero comic, and you can only read one, it may not be the best, but it's kind of the most like canonical to me because it
Uh-huh.
hits like all the elements and tropes that you think of as superhero things, just but very solidly. It hits like he starts off without powers. He gets his powers. He learns how to use them.
Yeah.
He's from a family. He's got the getting his first uniform scene, right? It's all in Invincible. He hits all the standard plot, all the beats really well. So it's like in a way, it's almost like a perfect, straightforward superhero story. And that was the one that got me to write Wistful Ascending. Was I was reading this and there was something, and this is I almost always write out of spite There'll be something in a story that I love that I think is wrong or should be done better or should be done differently. And I'm like, well,
Okay.
I can fix this. It's almost like fanfic, right? So there was one thing in Invincible. I was like, this isn't right. This doesn't make sense. This is like not quite almost a plot hole or a world building hole. And I'm like, because the whole thing of you have these superpowered beings who can have kids who have superpowers, then they should be everywhere,
Uh-huh.
right? Right? Like they should, because that's the thing. In Invincible, his dad's a Viltrumite. They're like Superman, right? In terms of their power level.
They
And
should be
like when they
running
have kids,
everything too.
they
Yeah.
should be running everything. They should be in charge of every planet. They should be everywhere. Like why, it's like Kryptonians in Superman. Like why aren't Kryptonians running every planet? Because if they go almost anywhere with a yellow sun, they have superpowers. Like why aren't they running everything? But
Right.
yet they're not. So I'm like, well, I'm going to give a reason, and the reason is because they don't have the powers. It's their half-breed children who have the powers, and they're sterile, so they can't
Right.
reproduce on their own. So you don't get this multiplicity and taking over the galaxy. You have their
They're
raised, they're turned
mules.
into child soldiers. So
Yeah.
I did that whole thing to sort of answer this piece in Invincible that bugged me. And I think I'm the only one it bothered. It bothered me and only so, my curmudgeonliness led to this whole, 25 books series because I was annoyed. So no
Yeah,
offense to
well,
Rob.
if you think too hard about a lot of what happens in comics, your suspension of disbelief is going to be threatened. So, yeah.
Like One Piece, right? Like, okay, they're all
Yeah.
pirates on the Grand Line, which no one can find. What are they pirating? Like pirates have to prey on merchant ships, which are going through like well-established trade routes. Otherwise, there's nothing to pirate. So how does this make sense that there's all these pirates in this place that no one can find? What are they doing? So
And
that
I can
that
see
that
you're a
really
fan of this despite having these niggling questions. Yeah.
I can put aside. I mean, I loved Invincible. This problem I had with it didn't make me say it's a bad story at all. I recommend it constantly. I think it's
Right.
phenomenal. One Piece is a beautiful story.
Yeah.
This isn't me saying that my story is better. This is just me saying there's a particular element that annoys me. And
Or
there's always
inspired you. We'll put
yeah,
it
sure. Yeah, that's a much nicer way to put it. That's much
that way.
kinder. It inspired me. It
There
inspired
are
me to
various ways that we can be inspired, right? So
but that is mine. Mine is spite.
lit the
So I
flame. It
guess.
lit the flame.
Yeah, it lit the flame. So yeah, I was heavily inspired by Invincible, and Rohan. You don't see it as much in book one, but in book two, he goes back to Earth, and there are like superheroes in spandex costumes flying around like
Right.
all over book two. So a lot of book two is probably the least well liked book for a variety of reasons. It's not worth going into, but the people who are big comic book fans often like it because it's like my version of the Avengers in book two. And they're like,
Oh,
oh, this is
cool.
like the event,
Okay.
But
Yeah.
if you're not a comic book person, you just read this and you're like, why are these people all on a team? That's weird. But so it's like, because do you buy into the trope or not? So
Yeah.
anyway,
Okay.
but
All
yeah,
right.
I lean into that more in certain places than in others, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. And also, the science fiction elements are really kind of fun. You have a sentient space station in Wistful, and that is so cool. And
Thank you.
it's not just sentient, but there's a lot of mystery behind this. Like, how old is this thing? Who put it there? But also on a more personal level, it has a really interesting relationship with Rohan, and you're kind of wondering, okay, what exactly is this relationship here? And how much humanity does, using the wrong word here in this context, but you know what I mean? How much humanity does Wistful have? And obviously, I've totally, in terms of the age and in terms of we're talking about something made out of metal and in this case diamond, I guess, but of
Yeah.
various parts. But can
Yeah.
does it have feelings? So there's a lot that you can play with here in terms of this space station.
I find AI is really interesting. All the AIs because all the ships are living and the
All the ships
stations,
also are sentient, yeah, unless they
all
come
the
from somewhere
interstellar.
else. Yeah,
Yeah, because my way around the interstellar travel thing is, sentience gives you the ability to do magic, right? So then they can form rifts between the stars magically. That way I don't have to have a warp drive,
yeah.
right? I mean, I have artificial gravity, which is something I just felt for lots of reasons, it just makes everything easier. Otherwise, all your space stations have to spin or something, and I don't like the aesthetic. It's purely an aesthetic thing. So I put artificial gravity, but I don't have warp drives that are mechanical, technological. It has to be magic. They cast a spell literally and zip. Um, and then my whole thing about AIs is like I think what people the thing about an AI that to me is fascinating is they don't have like, okay, you have a body, and what that means is you have all these experiences that affect your what you want in a way that it's not just information. Like pain hurts. Pain is not just, oh, there's a sensation coming from my hand that perhaps indicates damage to my hand. No, you you snatch your hand away, right, instinctively. To put your hand in something that you know will hurt takes like effort. It takes like willpower. Your computer doesn't have that, right? Your computer doesn't care if it's on or off. It doesn't care if like so if you open a thing, it's like, well, if you open this thing, you're going to use up all my available processing space. It's not going to stop you. It doesn't care. It just knows it may flash a little warning, but it doesn't have necessarily any kind of motivating power of this. It's just information. So the AIs, to me, they all have this experience, right? That some of them could be programmed to care if their bodies are damaged and to avoid situations where they're damaged, but it doesn't have to be,
Right.
right? That's purely a matter of do you put in that circuit, that logic in their programming or not? You just don't have to. And then you could have an AI that doesn't care if it's alive or dead because it's not programmed to care if it'll still do stuff. Like ChatGPT doesn't care if you turn it off.
Nah.
It doesn't know, right? It doesn't know if if you said, how do I turn you off? How do I shut you down? It would tell you because it doesn't have feelings in that sense. But so it's not that my eyes, they're alive, they have souls, they have feelings, but they don't necessarily have the feelings you think. So they don't necessarily care if they don't. So that gives me opportunity to play with, like, they can, this existentialism stuff, right? They can
Yeah, yeah.
pick. Right? Insatiable just picked, like, I'm going to be curious. That's my thing, and I like that thing, and that's what and I'm just really curious about stuff, and that's how I'm going to live my life.
Good
I'm gonna
research vessel. Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to become a research vessel, and I like that. I don't like fighting, and that's just how it is. But like, if she gets damaged in the course of something, she's not necessarily going to be upset about it or not upset about it. But and Wistful has his other just whole, entirely separate motivations that has to do with the back, and that just gives me stuff to play with, right? She's 50,000 years old. You don't know why she's there, why she's a station, but it gives me. I think I knew most of it when I wrote the book, and some of it is just, and some of it's fun because as a writer, I can just put this character in, is doing stuff, and has been there, and like, I don't know why they're there either, but I'll think of something.
Huh.
Like, give me 10 years or 5 years by the time I get to book 11, and I'll have an idea. And that's happened more than once. I don't even remember when I figured some of this stuff out. Like, part of me, I wish I'd written it all down. Like, I'm like, I don't remember, like, there's thematic stuff that fell into place in Wistful Ascending that I did not intend, and it worked out. And I was
Oh, I
like,
love it when that happens. Yeah.
the end had layers that I did not. I was just trying to find a clever way for Rohan. This is my rule for the series, right? Rohan has to win in clever ways.
Uh-huh.
Because if he's just stronger and tougher than everyone else, that's boring. That's just a bully, right? But if he wins in a clever way, it makes it fun. To me, that's my rule for action stories. So he's got
Okay.
to have a so I'll have in my notes, Rohan fights this guy, wins in clever way. That's my outline. And then I get to the outline. I'm like, oh my
Like
God,
it.
I didn't think of the clever way. I just
That's the hard part.
I just deferred to future Joe. Think of a
Future
clever
Joe,
way.
be clever.
Be clever here. Insert hilarious joke here. Like, how? Like,
Come
I get
on,
very
Flash
angry,
Joe, give me some help here.
very angry. It passed me a lot of the time. Like, this
Yeah.
outline's terrible. This is useless. But but then you have if I find a clever way, some of the clever way will also hit some thematic point. Like at the end of Wistful Ascending, it hits his like his commitment to like not controlling his anger. That's effectively how he wins. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool. That's not. I don't know how
Yeah.
much of that I
Yeah.
planned.
Which is a
Sometimes it
big
just
part of his struggle about who he is too and who he wants to
yeah.
be. And you see him make some really important decisions along the way. And I'm not going to be too specific here because we're avoiding spoilers, but there is a relationship in here that you're kind of as a reader really rooting for, but you also realize that Rohan has to do the right thing and at a certain moment when he has a certain realization about what's actually happened in the past. And doing the right thing in this case will probably mean he knows it, giving up something really, really, really important to him. And that made me love this character probably more than any other thing
Ah,
in the entire book, actually.
thank you.
That
Thank
decision
you.
was just that was gold, even though I was kind of sad too. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
it's just really good stuff that you did there in terms of the character work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's funny. That was a scene I really had to rewrite because my
Uh-huh.
first time through, I was a really new writer and I had no writing training, and I also just I overdid the emotional response. I had him like racked with sobs, "I
Oh
love you,"
no.
and then
Yeah.
I read the book again, and I was like, they've known each, there's not enough there to have that like to be bummed is one thing. To be racked with sobs is not was not. So like it's one of the few emotional moments where I really had to completely, which doesn't involve a lot of changes. It didn't change a lot of lines. Like it
Right.
was maybe like sometimes people, if your editor will like, you've got to fix this, and you're like, oh, you change three lines and it's completely changes
Oh
the
yeah.
tone,
Yeah, yeah.
So this was one of those, but I don't even think that draft ever got published. But I wrote it and I was like, this isn't right. Like he shouldn't. It can't be this intense. Based on these circumstances. But I mean, the whole idea of Rohan is, I feel like it's a character you appreciate more if you're older, because the whole idea is he's a guy
Uh-huh.
who's done bad things and regrets it and how do you move forward after having done bad things?
Yeah.
And you typically what you see in a lot of media is these characters are like depressed and self-destructive and have these traits we associate with like PTSD. They're alcoholics. They drive people away because they had this. I'm not worth anything. I've done bad things. I'm worthless. Like that's a very common trope. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I want a more constructive. Not constructive might be the wrong word. A more positive approach to you've done bad things instead of punishing yourself for eternity, which
Yeah.
maybe I'm not going to say it's the wrong way to go. I don't think it's the most enjoyable way to go. Like let's how do you rehab? How do you
Mhm.
moving forward say I'm going to switch this up. I'm going to and I think what I just wrote Rohan as a guy. He's done horrific things. He was put into some
Yeah.
corners, but he's done horrific things. I
Yeah.
mean, you don't see it all on the page. He hints at some of it, but I mean,
Yeah.
every once in a while someone will be like, this book's kind of a cozy read. I'm like, the main character's done a little genocide, so I don't know if I'd call it cozy. Those things
Yeah.
don't go together. But he's done horrible things, and he's sort of come to maybe hit rock bottom and sort of said, nope, if it kills me, I'm not doing this anymore. Even if it kills me, right? My life isn't worth, it's not worth living like this. So I'm not going
Right.
to pretend my life isn't worth living, but I'm going to not do this stuff anymore.
Just
We're
wants to
starting
be
off
a toe chief second class. Yeah.
this is my existentialism, right? You aren't what your past actions. You are continuously choosing. This is Sartre, right? You're being for itself. You're continually choosing who you are at every moment. You're not a thing. You're not a chair that has characteristics. You're constantly choosing who you are every second. You've got to
Yeah.
re-choose. You're a good person for 10 years. You could choose to do an evil thing. Or you're a bad person for 10 years. You could choose to start doing good things.
Mm.
So there's my Sartre.
Questions of redemption. So he's
Yeah.
basically like a grizzled veteran with a dorky sense of humor, like Spider-Man.
Yeah, yeah. I think that I have the Spider-Man rule is in the middle of combat, I allow myself any amount of quips. So if time in this universe just freezes when you crack jokes, and it has no there's no side effect, but because I think sometimes it's people like you realize that they're like saying a lot of stuff at mid-fight, like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, yeah, I know you can't really do that, but that's okay. It's a
Yeah.
book, it's like
It's a book. And the humor
it's a
actually
book.
is a vital part of the whole thing, too. It would be a different book without the humor, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, on a very sort of basic level, I can't write without it because I get bored. So if I can't write straightforward prose. I've tried because I've had ideas for characters where I've tried to write the book and the character didn't have much of because it was actually in a way a similar character, some PTSD involved, some trauma from military life, and I was like, he shouldn't be cracking jokes. He's like depressed. I couldn't write it. Like I'm not saying it was a bad character, but I couldn't plow through. I have to tell the jokes. That's how I amuse myself when I write the book.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and it also, again, it's part of it's too easy to make the characters to huge downer. Like I've killed lots of people and I have this tragic past and my parents manipulated me and all of
Yeah.
my cousins basically child soldiers for an evil empire. And there's nothing wrong with that book. People write that book or more or less, right? But it's just like, that's not what I wanted to do. My goal was always joy first,
Uh-huh.
like as a writer. Like I mean people want to write dark, but there's lots of good reasons to write and read dark stuff, right? That's not me. So it was always like joy first. So let's have some fun, let's have a lot of jokes and let's have humor and let's have like and it's also like a almost a political maybe political is the wrong word, but like a global viewpoint. I think people are generally good And I want to write a whether you I don't want to argue with anyone who says that's not true, but I certainly want to write a book from that perspective that people are generally good, and if people aren't damaged, they're going to be nice and they're going to be kind. So like all the background characters are generally nice and kind, and some they'll tell jokes and they'll insult them in a you know in a humorous way, but um that was also a goal, was to not have this grim world where everyone is just ready to stab you in the back at the very first opportunity. I'm not, maybe people are really like that and I just choose to believe they're not. I don't know, but I didn't want to write that book.
No, I'm with you
So,
there. I'm with you there. I think people are fundamentally good and or want to be. Yeah, most
yeah,
people.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but now that I think we've given people a pretty fair impression of Wistful Ascending, which, by the way, is book one of the Hybrid Helix series. That's the
Yes.
series name.
Yeah.
And I don't have a copy of Wistful with me because I did listen to the audio book, which I
I don't
do
either.
recommend. I do. You don't have a copy? Oh my
I
goodness.
have I changed the typography. So this is the old
Yeah,
cover.
yeah, yeah.
Um, this is the old typography. So the image is the same.
I
And
have it
then
on my
I
phone
got some
somewhere.
help. I changed the typography to something more science fiction-y. So the
Yeah.
newer books, and then I just sent my last copy of I mailed it. Every once in a while someone asks me for a signed copy, so I mail them
I know
out.
what you
And
mean. Yep.
I mailed it yesterday, and I was like, oh, I don't have one left for, for this show.
All right. Well, people won't see this very
Oh,
well.
there we go.
Yeah.
No, that looks great. Thank you. Oh,
Yeah.
I could have done that. I didn't even think of using my phone. That makes a lot of sense.
Well, I had it on my
Yes.
phone because I got to make a thumbnail. So.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Excellent. Thank you. Right, right, right. Right, right. The artist at work. The artist at work.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoy my thumbnails that are kind of dorky and
Oh no, yours are great.
so bad that they're almost good.
Yeah. No,
That's
no.
my goal.
They
Yeah.
are they are good. They are good. There's that B movie aesthetic to it.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
phenomenal.
Kind of
Yeah, no, that's
campy.
great.
Kind of campy.
Yeah, they're great. They're
Yeah,
great.
because I don't use AI for anything. I don't use
Yeah.
AI even to make my thumbnails, where I just by hand
Yeah.
take people's faces and stick them on,
Yeah.
and then I have to by hand carve out the hair and put it back on and
We can
whatever.
tell.
Yeah.
We can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had to stop using Pro Writing Aid, I think it was. I was using it for a little while because it was really good at helping you like figure out where the commas go, those kind of low level grammatical, I don't, maybe low level is the wrong word, but yeah, grammatical stuff like where the comma
Yeah.
should go and should this be capitalized or not.
Yeah.
Um, and I stopped using because they're like, oh, we're all in on AI. And I'm like, oh, well, there's I guess I'm all in on staring at my manuscript and trying to figure out where the commas go. I have a line editor who's wonderful, but I always want to get it as clean as possible before it goes to her. So I don't
Uh-huh.
want her having to fix every sentence because that's just, that's
Yeah.
not good for anybody. So
No. But yeah, but I could talk about AI. I've done it a lot, so I don't
no,
necessarily
no,
need to get
I'm
into
very
that.
opposed. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, just for not opposed to AI, period, because yeah, obviously there are applications of
oh
AI
yeah,
that are actually really helpful and good, so I'll get that out there. But I
yeah,
am opposed to AI where it is replacing human creativity
yeah,
and threatening artists and writers, musicians and
yeah,
whatnot. So I really hope more and more, and I feel like people are beginning to recognize that creativity is really fundamental to humanity and that we can't just let machines do it for us. That would be a tragic loss. But
yeah. And what creativity AI seem to have is theft. And so
that's
there's
it. I
that
mean, they're
moral,
imitating. All they're doing is
yeah,
imitating
yeah, yeah.
based on what's been fed into them, which
Right,
honestly,
right.
some people who have created these toys have actually been pretty, uh, well, I don't think immoral is the wrong word because they've stolen
No,
from people.
yeah.
They've stolen
Well, they
from
have the
artists, they've stolen from writers, they've stolen to create
and,
these tools and then
yeah,
sold
yeah,
these tools and made billions of dollars from them.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
they've been immoral. Yeah.
I think I just submitted four of my books for this settlement against this one company,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
$1.5 billion thing. So I just
I'm
did that
aware
like
of it.
yesterday.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
I don't think I'm actually gonna get 12 grand out of it, but in theory I should. So
yeah,
we'll see. I don't know how they're going to constrain the class. I don't know if they're going to only count certain books. My books, four of my books were in that database.
yeah,
That doesn't mean, I don't know that that means they were all used to train the AI or if they were just available to the AI to use. So I don't know how they're going to constrain it. But I'm like, I'll take a $12,000 check if that's what happens, you know?
I mean, honestly, they ought to have paid all the people that
Yes.
stole from
Yes.
in the first place.
Yes. Well, that's so hilarious. The argument is like, well, if we had to pay for this stuff, our business model wouldn't be viable. And we're all just
We
like,
couldn't make billions then. Yeah.
and right, like,
Woohoo.
and it's like, it's
Yeah.
like, if I can't steal from my neighbor, I can't make money on it. Well, then maybe your business is the problem and not
The
the.
world's smallest violin right here. Yeah.
I know. I know. Exactly. Exactly.
But anyway, so we've gotten a good idea of Wistful.
Okay.
And so with that, I think maybe it's time for my standard question, which is going to
Ooh.
be, as you well know, going on the theory that you are what you read, Joe, what have been some of the formative reads of your life and the reads that you would point to and say, yeah, that explains me, right? If that's possible.
Every time people answer this question, I was like I'm 54. There's a lot of I've been reading a lot since I was like 6 or 8 years old. That's a lot of stuff. But I mean, I
Yeah.
remember I got into fantasy and sci-fi because it was like on my parents' shelves, like Lensman series by E. Doc Smith, which is super pulpy space opera. Which I
Yeah.
don't know if I'd recommend it to anyone because I don't think it aged great, but it meant so a lot of things that I read meant a lot to me at the time. I don't necessarily know if they're good. Like I don't know if you'd want to read it as an adult like today.
Yeah.
I read a lot of Lensman. I read a lot of Burroughs. I mean, I got all the John Carter books like off the bookstore shelves. I read all of like everything Michael Moorcock had available in this country. I picked up like Elric and Hawkmoon and Quorum. Again, I lived in New York. You just go to the Forbidden Planet in Manhattan, and it had like everything. Every new release from UK or US publishers was on a shelf, and you just read the back. And if there's a guy with a big sword, I'd buy it. Pretty much, not
I
everything,
love
but
it.
yeah. I mean, people today have Amazon and they have like, did you read the reviews? I'm like, we didn't have reviews. Like, I didn't. I
Yeah.
don't think that didn't. That just that wasn't that didn't exist. So
No, no, no. There was no internet
um,
when we were that
yeah,
age.
exactly. Exactly, right? I mean, there might have been magazines that existed that would review books, but I didn't know what they were. I never read any. I read a lot of, and then I got desperate. I go to the library and read like mystery and not Jack Reacher because this was before that, but like Spencer, Mickey Spillane, noir stuff. And then I got really into comics. I was really a Marvel guy. I read
Same here,
you know,
Marvel. I like
I mean,
DC too, but Marvel was
I
the thing.
yeah. Yeah, I really like the street level heroes, like the martial artists, like Iron Fist and
Oh
Power
yeah,
Man and
Power
Iron
Man and
Fist.
Iron Fist. Yeah,
Master of Kung Fu was one of the
Daredevil.
Daredevil. I like Daredevil. I like the Frank Miller Daredevils, all the Elektra stuff. That was when I was really getting into comics. Was when that stuff was being published, and I
Nice.
also like the cosmic stuff, like the Jim Starlin, like Warlock, and the Thanos, the Infinity Gauntlet. Like these are all stories from the early '70s.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
isn't. People are like, oh, this is new stuff. From the movie. I mean,
Oh,
this isn't new stuff, man. This stuff
oh,
came out before I could read. Warlock. I love the story of Warlock. The fact that he spends his whole career fighting. I don't know if you remember Warlock. He was his nemesis was the Magus who ran this evil church, right? And he was
okay.
fighting him the whole time. And the Magus was Warlock from the future, returned to his point in time. So he knew he was going to become his nemesis at
Mm,
some point. And he knew that, but he knew it all along. It wasn't like a secret that was revealed at the end, like which is what I think
right,
most of us would do, right?
right.
Like final scene, like I am you from the future, like oh damn
I
it,
am your
whatever.
father.
He
Yeah,
knew so this tension was a beautiful thing.
yeah.
Master Kung Fu was I read Master Kung Fu. I don't know how many times I read the whole series. Like every time I'd get sick, if I was home like from school, just that's what you go back and you reread it again. And then I got I read a lot of manga. Once scanlations became possible. Once you got these, the fans would scan things like Berserk and they just put it online because you couldn't get English translations for a long time in most of this stuff, like all through the 90s. It was really sparse. But I mean, I read all of Berserk, I read all of Naruto. The first half of Naruto, I think, is some of the best action writing you're going to find anywhere.
Ah,
Back half, I don't think was good, but the fight scenes in Naruto, in some of those early arcs, are just amazing because there's all these strategies being used by the characters to win the fight, and the strategies have to do with the character development arcs of the characters.
okay.
So defeating the opponent means coming up with a physical strategy on the battlefield that goes along with their emotional arc of the growth they need to go through to become like a better person. Like that's phenomenal writing, and he basically loses it in the back half of the series because you get a power escalation. At some point, it just becomes like who can throw the bigger fireball, right?
Uh-huh.
Because that happens. That's hard to avoid. But Malazan was big for me. I read the 10 books. I read Wheel of Time. I was really enjoying Wheel of Time. I got to book four and I said, I'm going to wait for this to be finished and I'm going to read the whole thing. And then
Okay.
I tried and I couldn't get through it. I
Oh
couldn't.
no. Oh no.
Um, I, I, I think with
Did you get
my
stuck
theory
in the
about
fog or was
I
there?
got stuck on book two. You know, so here's,
Oh,
I don't have a lot of time to read is my problem, right?
uh-huh.
Between my day job, family, I travel a decent amount and writing my own stuff. I just don't have a lot of blocks of time. I think, as a kid, I'd spend the whole summer. I could spend 10 hours a day on a couch reading books. And if you're spending 10 hours a day reading Wheel of Time, you're getting to a bunch of cool stuff every day. But if you're spending 15, 20 minutes a day reading Wheel of Time, you can
Yeah.
go a whole week without getting to much that's new and cool. And
Yeah.
that I couldn't do it. I couldn't and I really do feel like if I retired and I could really sit down and read 2 hours a day, I might enjoy Wheel of Time,
Uh-huh.
but not in 15-minute chunks. I can't.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
uh, I read a lot of urban fantasy, so I was on the Jim Butcher and I read Laurel Hamilton for a long time. I don't know if you ever encountered her. She was urban fantasy. I think she was the first one to really do that really smutty turn into
Uh-huh.
paranormal romance. Like the first few books in Anita Blake are really just like urban fantasy. Like there's a romance, but it's not super anything, right? It's just like a romance because there's romantic subplots in Jim Butcher books, right? That's not
Oh yeah. Sure. Yeah.
right. So the first three or so, and then book four, it takes a really hard turn to the explicit side, and it just keeps going and you're like, oh, and I read like 15 of them, and at one point I'm like, it's a lot. I'm skimming a lot. I'm like, there's a lot. I'm skimming a lot of scenes. Like, okay, okay, okay.
I mean, you see one of them, you've seen them all, I guess,
It's
right?
not my thing. I mean, if it's someone's thing, that's fantastic. I'm not like against if I met Laurel Hamilton, I'd shake her hand and tell her I'm a big fan. But there's story and action stuff, and then there's like lots of in between, and I'm like, okay. But I mean, I read a lot of those. There were several other authors in that Patricia Briggs in that same thing. So then a lot of comics, like some Marvel comics, a lot of manga, watched a lot of anime, and then I got into Korean web comics.
Oh, okay. Okay.
These like
Yeah.
they're on this app called Webtoons. You can get a lot of the stuff on your phone for free, and they make you pay for like tokens so you can get the newest things.
Uh-huh.
But if you're willing to be like 2 weeks behind, you can just read their whole back
Oh,
catalog for free.
okay. Yeah.
And they're weird because they are drawn to fit on a phone when you scroll. So they're not panels that you go left and right. You scroll up and down. So each issue is like many phone heights of action,
Oh,
and you've got to just kind
interesting.
of scroll, and
They're
and that's how you
actually
read.
designed for phone
Yeah,
reading.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Oh,
And
wow.
and and
Huh.
this is not new in Korea. This goes back 15 years, or
Wow.
more than 10 years, right? So there's one particular called Tower of God, where the world building is phenomenal and had a big influence on what will be the back half of the Hybrid Helix, where there was stuff happening in there, and I'm like, I gotta do something that captures the feeling I get from this world. And so I
Yeah.
put that. That's the. I haven't gotten there yet. You get a hint added in book eight,
Let me
but
tell you something too. I want to just
sorry.
interrupt you for a brief moment
Yeah.
because I really appreciate how open you are about your influences, and that's not always the case, and it
Mm,
annoys me more than anything when an author is very cagey. Oh, did I read that? Oh, I don't know. Maybe I don't remember that really. But and there's such an obvious influence in there. Come on, just be open about it. We all read stuff. We all want to do stuff that our favorite authors have done. And we
yeah, yeah.
your own version, but I love that you're very open about it. I
Oh,
feel
thank you.
the same way. Like yeah, heck
Yeah.
yeah, Tolkien over and over and over again. If you feel like there's something Tolkienian, great, I'm happy.
Oh, yeah. I read your descriptions, and that's my first thought
Yeah,
because I'm reading Way of Dan. I couldn't finish it because I'm drafting. I'm on a deadline with this book, so
that's
my
priority
reading
number
time.
one. So yeah, you do your drafting,
As
but yeah,
soon as I finish that, yeah. So I'm more than halfway through Way of a Dawn, but you can tell by the descriptions and the language and stuff where your
yeah.
influences are. It's right there. Mine are not, right? You can also tell the same. I'm not hugely influenced by Tolkien, but I'm influenced. But sometimes I want to give some authors credit and give myself some credit that sometimes you forget
That's
some of
true.
these influences, right?
Yeah,
Who was it? Tori Tekken.
yeah,
Tori.
I
She
do.
was
Yeah.
she loves Rurouni Kenshin, which is a manga and an anime,
Uh-huh.
and I was a big fan. And the main character is like this reformed assassin who has like he killed like all these people during the revolution, the Meiji Restoration,
Huh.
and then it's the story takes place after that, and he's known as like the terror of the battlefield, but he's like, I'll never kill again, and he carries a sword where he flips the blade around, so when he strikes people, he's hitting them with the back end, the blunt side. I don't think that really works from a sword perspective, but let's it's a manga, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, and she's like, and I listen to her talk, I'm like, wow, that's a lot like Rohan in a lot of ways. And then I
Uh-huh.
was like, oh, I totally stole that because it's a very similar character. And I had not thought about that in like years. But
Huh.
I mean, it's clearly very similar
Same
stuff
thing
going,
with
not the
me
same.
and Tad Williams. I read Memory Sorrow
Okay, okay, yeah,
before
yeah,
I started writing the Adan trilogy, and
right,
it had been a bit between the reading of that and my writing my own books, and
right.
I'm now in the process of rereading Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn, and I'm reading. I'm like, holy crap! I didn't realize I took that from Tad Williams.
Forget.
Okay, yeah,
You forget because everything we read, because you said it, right? What you read determines who you are, but it becomes who you are. You don't keep the reference in mind.
right,
You're not like, oh, I like this because of this, right?
yeah,
Sometimes you will, right? If I eat sushi, I remember the first time I had sushi sometimes, right? But there's a lot of stuff where it becomes part of you. And then
yes.
it comes out when you write, and you don't
Sometimes it's
necessarily,
conscious and sometimes it's not.
yes.
It's
Yeah,
unconscious.
yeah,
So to be fair, but I think when somebody reminds me,
yeah,
and I've legitimately can say, oh yeah, I did read that before I wrote this book, and yes,
right.
I can see what you're talking about, and probably that was an unconscious thing, but yeah, it's there, you
There
know.
are so many. And that's why yeah, I have a hard time. People ask me for like, oh, what was your influence? And I'm like, well, let's, have a seat. Oh, get a pen because it's going to be a while, right?
Yeah.
Because I can say it's like Deep Space Nine meets Dragon Ball Z, and that's like true, but it's also like so many other, be like, why is it on a space station? I'm like, I don't know, Deep Space Nine, Dragon Ball Z, not Babylon 5. There's so many properties. But one thing I think that I find with myself is that my mind, I don't know why, but my influences may be more outside of novels.
Uh-huh.
And some people, as writers, are primarily listing other novels. And novels influence me, but a lot of my influences are from other places. A lot of it's from manga, from TV shows, even. So it's a mix. Comic books. It's a mix. If I could draw, I'd probably have done it as a comic book.
Oh, really
Maybe.
interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
It would have made sense. I can't draw. Or I never had the discipline to figure it out.
Or you could eventually work with somebody, an artist, on a comic version of it.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, I,
they've done the Farseer trilogy in comic form.
yeah. I have a really hard time collaborating. I
Oh,
listen to people talk about collaborating, and I'm like, oh, I don't know, because I'm very finicky. I told you I'm very curmudgeonly about the like little plot holes and like, does this power make sense in like the scheme of things? Like, I'm very much like, if someone shows a power in like book 9, like that they have this ability, right? And they could have used it to help them in book 2. That's going to really bug me. Like Harry Potter does this,
oh,
right? Where they have like
constantly.
some
Yeah.
super useful
Yeah.
spell and they forget about it in the next book because each book is like
Or time
self-contained and
travel in book
yeah,
3 and then
yeah,
never
right,
used again in the
right,
rest of the
right.
series, which could have solved a lot of things,
So
I'm sure.
that kind of stuff really bugs me, and I
Uh-huh.
cannot have it in my own stuff. And I have a feeling if there was anyone working with me on any of this stuff, they'd want to, hey, how about we have this character who can do this? No,
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 but they'd
no,
just
don't
be
we
your
can't.
illustrator, right? I mean, I don't know how
That's
much
true. That's
an
true.
illustrator could do that to you, but
Yeah. If they were willing to really be like the not have input, not have creative input on the like,
yeah.
it's fine to say like maybe we do this from a different angle, shoot this scene, right? That's fine, right?
So like
But
you would have to be okay with their portrayal of certain characters, even if it wasn't
yeah,
exactly what you had in your head. Like when I've been working with Alan on the audiobooks of my
audiobooks.
books, and I love his narration. I love it to pieces.
Yeah.
Does he narrate every character the way, in fact, most of the characters, no, that's not the voice I had in my head, but it's his interpretation. And I'm fine with that. I just let go and say, Alan, you do your performance. It's your thing.
Yeah.
It's your performance and it's based on the story I've told. And so for me, I have to let go and say, all
Yeah.
right, if he does a voice a certain way,
Yeah. Yeah.
let Alan do his
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And honestly, a lot of people love the way he's doing it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I have the same thing with Wayne, my narrator.
Yeah.
You listen to the narration. I
I
think
did. He did a great
he
job.
gave
Yeah.
he did a great job, but he did not do the voices the way I would have thought. I think he gave Whaley like an Irish accent or something, and I'm just like,
Oh, really?
Or
Was that Irish?
I,
Okay, yeah. Well, I like
maybe,
that.
maybe I might be remembering it wrong because I haven't listened to it since we did the editing, which I think was 23. So I haven't listened to it in a while, right? I
Okay.
mean, because I'm not an audiobook guy, so I don't listen to my own audiobooks, right? That's not. I'm gonna have to because he's doing books 2 and 3 this fall,
Oh,
so I'm
good,
gonna
good.
have to
Okay.
go through it all again. There were a variety of reasons that whole project got delayed, but I do want more audio because people really like the audio and people really like Wayne's work, and I
Yeah.
liked it enough, but the way he like Rohan has a very strong voice in my head and how he would deliver every line, and it's not the way the Wayne would do it. But
Well, I
I
gotta say
can't like
now,
go
Wayne's
through.
Wayne's Rohan is my Rohan
Yeah,
because that's what I heard,
I
and
know,
he
I
does a great
know.
job of sounding like a
He
North American.
does.
That's a North
Oh
American.
yeah. Oh, that
Yeah,
he does. That
yeah.
he does. Yeah, yeah.
And I don't
Rohan's
think he
Canadian.
is like Wayne
No.
is British, is he?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
yeah,
Wayne's British.
yeah,
Oh, Wayne's British. But he does the voices, the accents. I didn't want a British narrator, because he does like the narration parts. I think he does in a British accent, like not super thick, but it's
yeah.
there.
It's there. Oh yeah.
And that was not intentional on my part. I think I'm of that generation that's been influenced by PBS. So whenever
Uh-huh.
there's a British accent, it sounds extra classy and sophisticated, which
Right.
isn't really fair. But so when I heard it, I'm like, ooh, this is a classy and sophisticated reading of my work. Like I couldn't get over it
Tell
because
that to a Cockney or
I
something.
know, I know, I know. But this is how I was,
I know. I'm the same.
indoctrinated as a child. Yeah, I
I'm the
know.
same. Yeah.
We're this culturally similar, very similar background, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
American, similar age bracket and stuff. But
Northeast. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yes, yeah, right, right. So when with ACX, you pick a narrator, you audition. The way I did it was I just went through ACX
Oh, you
and I
did.
said
Okay.
this.
Okay.
Here's like like 1,000 or 2,000 word sample, and you say what kind of narrator you're looking for. Part of me wanted a female, but then I was like, doesn't really make sense. It's really all one point of view, and it's a male character. It shouldn't really be a female. Part of me wanted like an Indian female narrator,
Uh-huh.
as if like an Indian accent, as if his mother was telling you the story.
Oh, yeah.
But that would only be funny for me. I think for everyone else it would be confusing. Um,
Huh.
so I didn't do that. But I didn't request a British accent. And Wayne just sent the audition. They send you a you didn't do it this way, but they send you a little clip. You give, like I said, you give a writing sample. They read it. They send it.
I'm
It's
aware
like
of
a
the
3 minute.
process.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So it's like a 3 minute clip, and I listened to him, and I'm like, oh, he's good. And it was really close between him and like one other guy, and I was like, but also the British accent kind of fits because in my mind, I always think, I was heavily influenced by Bollywood and Tollywood movies. And the
Yes.
English in that has that British, it's not quite a British accent, but it's closer to a British accent than to an American accent.
Yeah.
Because obviously, India was colonized by the British. They got their English from the British, not from
Right.
Americans.
Right.
So
But
that,
Rohan
that,
is
that's,
Canadian, or his background
yeah,
on Earth is Canadian.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that makes sense that he would have a North American accent.
Yeah. He was born and raised in Canada, spent a lot of time in New York. So I just like, yeah, just do standard, like, whitewashed North American accent.
Yeah.
That's what I told Wayne. That's how I envision. I had to make
Great
sure he had
job.
spent time in New York because if he's saying doing because if I'm writing him, he's going to say New York things at some point or another because I can't help it because I'm born and raised there. So I'm like, I'll just say you spent a few years there. That's good enough. It's my my way out.
That works.
So
That works.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. That's really great. I mean, so it's a collaboration. So you can
yeah. You're
collaborate.
right. You're right. You're
There
right.
we go. Yeah.
Right. It was hard. It was hard. It's hard reading those, listening to those, because you got to edit every, he sends a chapter and I'm like, oh God, it's time to, and not that it's bad.
Yeah.
it's not exactly, if it's not exactly how I would do it, it's like, and I'm not really an audiobook person. I listen to a lot of podcasts, listen to a
Uh-huh.
lot of booktube, right? Like if I'm working out, I'll put one of your videos on. I often don't watch, but I listen.
Yeah.
Um,
I think
uh,
most
uh,
people do that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I wouldn't want to watch my face for an hour either. So,
I don't mean that. I just mean like I'm doing something where I have to
yeah.
like see what I'm doing, and I listen to what you guys are saying. Um,
Yeah.
but I never really got into audiobooks. I know you've been on an audiobook journey that's newish.
Just very,
So
yeah, I'm kind of a
yeah,
newbie still. And it's working for me. And I never thought it
yeah,
would
yeah,
because I
yeah,
was more or less like you.
yeah,
I tried Andy Serkis's narration of Lord of the Rings at one point and
yeah.
just kept falling asleep and going, even though he's brilliant, absolutely brilliant, but
Right, right.
or trying to what did he say? I mean, just the slightest thing, and I missed, and I feel like and I rewind, and I thought, no, it's just not going
Yeah,
to happen. And then
yeah,
I actually was listening to my own book being narrated by Alan.
yeah,
That convinced me, I think I can actually do this. This was fun.
yeah.
And
This
part
is
of it
fun.
was I lost the obsession with, oh, what if I miss? Because I wrote the damn
Right.
book. I wasn't worried about missing anything. So it just freed me up. And I thought, okay,
Yeah,
I can at least do this with books that are familiar. I know I can.
yeah, yeah,
And then I
yeah.
did Circus's Lord of the Rings again, and it worked beautifully the second try. So you never know. I mean, I didn't think I would be listening to something like Dungeon Crawl or Carl ever, and here I am listening to this lit RPG, and I tried that before too, and bounced hard off of
Uh,
RPG. But this was fantastic.
Carl's a what do they call it? Crunchy. He's less crunchy of an
Yeah,
lit
Brian was
RPG.
educating us the other day in our
Yeah, yeah.
video. Yeah,
I watched
it's
that. I
not as
watched that
crunchy.
video.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah.
Carl's a less crunchy version, and Dungeon Crawl Carl's great. I sight read the first. I think I've read the first four books,
Okay.
and I sight read them. And what's funny is I don't appreciate some of the characters as much as the people who listened. Like
Interesting.
I love it. I love Dungeon Crawl Carl, but like everyone's like the AI is amazing, and I'm like, nah, is he? Like I thought the AI was fine, but I didn't. It didn't. The AI wasn't like my favorite character, right?
Yeah.
I love many of the characters, but the AI was. But I think it's a difference in the sight reading versus the performance, and
Yeah.
it elevates certain parts of it over others because his
Yeah.
performance, like Donut is just amazing. Even if someone doesn't read her to you, she's
Right.
just amazing. But
Yeah.
maybe the AI needs to be read to be as amazing as other people find, or maybe it's just a personal thing. I don't know. But I love those books. And Nicole Carl was and Matt Dinneman is the nicest guy. I
Huh.
went up to him at Worldcon and I'm like, let
Huh.
me tell you something about Carl that you might not have realized. I'm going to one of the most successful authors like in the business explaining his own main character to him.
That was gutsy. I like it.
I'm a, I have a little bit of that reverse imposter syndrome, but Carl's a swashbuckler, in my opinion, in the sense that Sebastian de Castell talks about swashbucklers,
Yeah.
these people with a sort of moral code that's out of time or out of phase with their cultural backwards surroundings.
Huh. Huh.
Right? That's also I'm paraphrasing. I don't want to get you know Sebastian de Castell. He wrote the Great Coats. He
Yeah,
wrote.
the gray coats. Yeah.
I watched an interview of him about this where he was talking to fanfi addicts about swashbuckling, and this is fascinating. I love this. I think of Rohan sometimes as a swashbuckler in a
Sure.
way, right?
Sure.
And then now I interpret all these characters through this thing that I had never considered before this interview with Sebastian on a show, right? On Adrian and MJ Kuhn talked to him on fanfi addicts. So then I was like, like Matt, you gotta understand what you're doing. You may not have understood what you were doing, and I didn't say it quite that obnoxiously, but he was very gracious. He listened to me, and he's a super nice guy. So I've talked to him for a while at that's why Worldcon was fun.
Yeah. Wow.
Get
Well,
to meet these
certainly
people.
Rohan and Carl both could buckle some swashes, I'm sure.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Because they're not it's not the rapier and the big hat,
Yeah.
or the peg leg or whatever. But in that morality out of phase
Yeah.
with their surroundings, and that
And
was
also
very much
just
what I
like
was.
making it sort of seat of your pants, kind of just, you know, impromptu, figuring
Yeah,
something out in the middle of almost getting killed, that kind of
yeah,
action.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So Carl's a lot of fun, and that's not something I expected to enjoy
Same.
nearly as much. But I
Yeah.
have a theory about that. I think with Carl, it's better than it's better than it has to be. Because if he had written a book that was that funny and had that much action and had lacked the thematic content and the depth and lacked the character development, I
Yeah.
think it still would have done very well,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
right? But instead of just doing it that way, he added all that other stuff. And it doesn't
Yeah.
all come in evenly, right? I think a lot of the thematic hits you in that last third or last quarter. And all of a
Huh.
sudden you're like, oh, you'll see as you go through the books, this keeps happening, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You start to, but the other thing I love about Dungeon Crawler Carl is how it phrases what the victory conditions are. Because I write a very powerful main character. He's usually not going to lose a fight. So people are like, well, you can't have an action story where the hero can't die or plot armor ruins a book. People have to die. And I'm like, people don't have to die. There's lots of ways you can lose or prices you can pay that don't involve death.
Yeah.
And that's one of my pet peeves about some people saying it has to be grimdark, only grimdark, because only in grimdark can people die, and that's the only thing that makes any kind of stakes. I'm like, whoa, like I have lots of stakes in my everyday life, and no one's dying most days, right?
Yeah.
But with Carl, he's not trying to win the game; he's trying to beat the game,
Yeah.
right? Because winning the game isn't really. He wants to beat the game
He will
makers.
do things that are outside the rules of the game to win the
Yeah,
game.
that too.
And that
That
speaks
too.
well of him too, because often that comes from
Yeah.
a sort of moral imperative.
Right.
Like he's
Right.
expected to play along, do the thing, make it entertaining, because that's what this is. It's entertainment, which says a
Right.
lot about modern society, by the way, too.
That too. That too.
Yeah.
There's a
That,
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of politics in those books that I think people
that goes over a lot of
politics.
heads, I think. Yeah.
I see people with a very particular political bent lauding those books, and I'm like, you do realize that this book stands for everything that you claim is that you're against. I'm not going to point it out to you because I don't want to ruin your fun, but like
Right.
this is not a libertarian manifesto, Dungeon Crawler Carl. It's not like woohoo, free markets, everything's going to be great. That's not what he's doing.
No, no, yeah. There's a
So
reason why it's a corporation that is running this
yeah,
whole
yeah,
thing.
yeah, and they're not the good guys, right? Like,
They're not the good
so
guys.
I
Yeah.
love those books. Those books, yeah, you're in for a fun time with those,
Yeah.
because yeah, as they move forward, those are great.
Yeah. Are you
Um,
current then with
no,
DCC? Oh,
I
okay.
think I've read four.
Okay.
Yeah, I've read four, and I was on Joe Carroll was having a bunch of people on to talk about each book every
Oh,
month or
Joe. Okay.
so.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Joe's one of the first people in BookTube I started being on his channel because of Steve Talks Books a couple of years
Uh-huh.
ago. Had a bunch of us on, me and AR with him and a few other, and Joe was on there, and then Joe was like, "Hey, come on, we'll talk about the new Dresden." I'm like, "Okay." So
Okay.
I think I
Okay.
reread the
Yeah.
whole Dresden
Yeah.
series. Like, oh
Joseph's a
yeah,
huge Dresden fan. Yeah. Yeah.
oh yeah, 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 yeah. We had a
Huge.
lot of fun with those.
Yeah.
So
But it's
and some
interesting. Yeah. What was I going to say about, oh,
Carl.
DCC? The
Yeah.
audio, if you ever do get into audiobooks, that might be the one to convince you. I don't know if have you heard the narration by Jeff Hayes? Okay.
But it is universally acclaimed.
Yeah.
I've never even heard one person say it's good, right?
Yeah.
Every single person it's
Yeah.
phenomenal, right? They
Yeah.
run out of superlatives. So
Yeah.
I'm sure I love it. But
Yeah. Especially
I don't
since
know.
you've already read those books, you might actually get even more out of his performance.
Yeah. I tend to spend a lot of my listening time where I can miss stuff and not worry. Yeah, but that's what you're saying, right? I already read the
Yeah.
book, so if I
You read
miss a
them.
little bit,
So,
I read them. That's true. That's true.
yeah.
One of these days, there's always a list of things we all want to
Oh
get
my
to.
goodness. Yeah. Yeah.
Time.
I'm not like one of those recent converts that's trying to make you into an audiobook listener, but I will say that it's added a dimension to my story engagement that I'm really enjoying. It's a lot of fun. And I never thought I'd have that. So yeah, I mean, I old dogs, and I'm like a
Yeah.
year younger than you, Joe. So
Okay. Okay.
we old dogs can learn new tricks. So,
We can learn new tricks. Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. One of these days, I'll get
Yeah.
to it.
And if you never
I have.
do try it, that's also fine with me. I don't really
Okay.
care.
Thank you. Yeah. I do have
Yeah.
those long drives to Maryland. So,
Yeah, if you got a long
I listen.
drive, yeah,
Yeah, I do the podcast. I'm listening to re-listening to writing excuses from the
mm,
beginning, and I'm on like season 11 or 12. So
okay,
this is how I learned how to write. I have no formal training
yeah,
in of any kind. I never even took a creative writing class in college, like not since high school. And I was a philosophy major, so but that's a different kind of writing. Like
yeah.
that's not about engaging the
Oh,
reader.
it sure
That's
is.
much more technical.
I did a lot
And
of
you know,
academic writing before I tried creative writing, and I quickly realized, ooh, these are very different, very
yeah,
different.
yeah.
Yeah,
People ask me sometimes, like, oh, because I write code for a living, I'm a software developer. Like, oh, how is that like you're writing fiction? I'm like, I mean, there's a keyboard, right? Both involve a keyboard and a computer. I don't know. There's not a
yeah,
lot else that goes together. But But
Yeah.
when I started writing, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I realized that like I think I have a knack for aspects of it, but there are aspects where I have no idea what I'm doing.
Same
And the
here.
way I didn't have time to like go and to do a 4 year degree and quit my job. You know, that wasn't going to happen. So, you know, I
Right.
did like Sanderson's lectures on YouTube and I listened to writing excuses like back to back. Listen to things, resources like your discussions with AP, right? Or
Yeah.
even people like you when you talk about books, you learn stuff about like, oh, when you say this thematic thing, you're like, oh, that's what theme means. That's what people are talking about. Oh, and then you can go and look at your own stuff. And that's how I learned. Because again, I'm not going back to school. I have a day job, you know?
Yeah.
No, I don't have time for that. So
Yeah, no, it is all part of for me anyway, the same passion really
yeah,
is analyzing literature, studying it, learning from
yeah,
people who've done it and done it really well, and writing it and you know
yeah.
and, having conversations about it. It's
Oh, I
all
love it.
coming from the same place, and we
Yeah.
need stories, don't we? We need them. We authors, people who anyone who's written a story, I think would probably tell you, even if it's the most just pure entertainment, and they're not trying to do anything deep, which is great. You know, there's a place for all that. But I think even those people would tell you there's something cathartic about the writing process itself. You know, that there is you're working on something, even if you're not aware that you're working on it when you're writing a book, right?
I mean, for me, yeah, for me, it's an all-consuming passion, right? If I'm like walking around, I'm thinking about like a plot line or a side story or something, right? It's how I engage with everything now. It's like if I wake up in the morning, I'm laying in bed, I'm thinking about how do I make this next scene work or something like that. It becomes
Yeah.
when people ask, you ever had someone ask you like how many hours have you spent on this, like writing this piece? And I'm like, I don't,
Who knows? Yeah.
I mean, I have no, I don't know how you'd begin to count that because for every hour I spend at a keyboard, I don't know how many hours I'm spending thinking about what I'm going to do when I'm at the keyboard.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how to count the amount of time at the keyboard. Half the time I'm at the keyboard and I'll get stuck and I'll watch a video or something. It's an infinite, you know. Someone asked me like, what do you think your hourly rate would be if you like paid yourself? I'm like, that was easy because it was a negative number. So I'm like, what's
Yeah.
just a negative number? Like, my hourly rate is I'm paying them some amount an hour, but it's less than zero. But to actually calculate it, I think someone's trying to get to the idea is if you consider this a part-time job, is it worthwhile? And then I'm like, the answer for most of us is no, but that's okay. No, worthwhile in a purely economic sense. Worthwhile in another sense, that's a whole different story, right? Because we're not doing it because we don't think it's worthwhile.
Right.
It might not be financially, sorry, I meant financially or otherwise, right? So,
Of course.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
no, I love it. It gives all these amazing opportunities. Do stuff like this, right? Like, you know, what we never would have met,
No.
right, without books and booktube, right? Like, you're only one state away, but like, what are the chances we're going to run into each other at the Trader Joe's on Route 17? You know,
Right.
pretty small. You know,
Right.
generally when I talk to people there, they very quickly file a restraining order, and then I can't go to Trader Joe's anymore. So you know, you're not knock one more Trader Joe's off my list. I can't
Oh
talk books to that
no.
lady in the produce section. So
Despite having the name Joe, and you could say, "Hey,
I know it's my
my store."
place.
Yeah.
I am.
That's why I'm here. Yeah.
That's why I'm here. I wish. I wish.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
So,
it has been one of the most meaningful journeys in that respect, becoming
mhm.
part of a community of people who are passionate about stories. And it's almost like the bonds that you make are become the most rewarding part of all this. The friendships you make and the understanding you gain about other people and about life just from the relationships and talking with people about story. You know, that's why fundamentally what I do on my channel is talk to people, have discussions about books. And I know that's not the sexiest thing on YouTube, but that's what I love. So that's what I'm gonna do. You know, I'm not gonna make videos that I feel like are just gonna be, you know, clickable. And I'm terrible at that anyway. I have zero interest and also zero skill in making videos that are gonna go viral or be
Yeah.
clickable or clickbaity or whatever. But man, I find it so meaningful to get in a discussion about a book. And sometimes even
Yeah.
a book that I didn't even like that much, but I end up liking it more because I have this discussion with these people who have a different understanding of it, you know?
Yeah. Oh, I've had that. I've had I talk with Joe Carroll got me to read Dungeon Crawl Carl because it's like, well, you'll be on my show, we'll talk about it. That made me read the book, and it was on my TBR forever, and I never got to it, but that got, and I loved it. And then AR Rhythm and I will sometimes read it. He'll say like, oh, you want to read the next Red Rising? We read Red Rising. Didn't make Red Rising work for me, but it was definitely more fun to read it and
Ah,
then talk to him about it than it would have been to just read it on my own.
right.
Um, because it adds that dimension of like, okay, so if I'm not, and for me, even if I don't love what I'm reading, there's that why, like, where's the disconnect? What's missing in it for me that I
Yeah.
can then explain to Erla? Well, this was my problem with this guy because I lots. Well, I don't want to get into Red Rising and bashing it because that's a whole different
I mean, it's a
thing.
much beloved series. I assume
I
that
know.
Andy is a fan. Is that right? Or
He was a slight no, he was slightly more of a fan than I was, but we were both reading it together for the first time. So it's
okay.
more like everyone's reading this, we should read it, let's read it together, and then we'll make a video, and that way we'll. I don't think know that we anticipated anyone watching. Half of the making the video is like we're just having a chat talking about the book, and we're
Yeah.
gonna put it on YouTube
Yeah.
because why not? But
You
but
forget that somebody's actually going to watch this at certain points. You're
yeah,
just
yeah, I
absorbed
don't
in
know.
the
Yeah,
discussion. Yeah.
yeah. That's how I do my half the time. That's how I make my for my channel. I'm even less. There's some topic that's bugging me, and I'm like, I'm going to make a video about books for men. That was my latest one, right? It's about books for men. What does it mean to be a book for men? What is why does this? Why do people feel so strongly about this one way or the other? What's really going on with the
There's a hot
term?
topic. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because I have a philosophy background, right? I was a ABD in philosophy. So like to me,
Yeah.
like the analyzing of terms, defining of terms is always like the first step. And I feel people skip it. And so I'll make a video and just it's I know I call my channel Man Yelling at Clouds About Books, right? But that's what it is. It's like I'm just like this is what I think science fiction means, and you can all go to heck if you don't agree with my
Hey,
definition.
one of those videos might go viral. You never know.
Not yet, but maybe the it got a decent number of views for the. But now every time anyone has a an argument about what books for men are, I'm like, I ever made a video about this.
Yeah.
Just it's like we used to do this with blogging, right? But like blogging, it's so hard to find a an audience because there wasn't like a central place where like, oh, and I'll read this article from this blog and this article from this blog. But YouTube does that, right?
Right.
So you have this opportunity where you make a video about something and someone else is like on YouTube, like Books for Men, maybe my video will pop up and they'll watch it, even if they don't know who I am. Whereas with my blog, no one's going to my blog. No one's just putting in Google books like that's too broad a search space. So yeah, that's why I like BookTube. It's basically I just make videos that are blog posts. And my
Yeah.
favorite part is always when I make a video and it doesn't make any sense and I never put it out there and I realize my thoughts on this topic were not clear, right?
Uh-huh.
Because I'm like, then the video doesn't work. Like I'm saying stuff and I'm like, I'm rambling and this isn't getting anywhere. There's no point. And I'm like, I don't have a coherent thought on this topic. I thought I did, but clearly I was mistaken because because this video makes no sense.
That's one way to find
That
out. But we have
that
to
always
know
happens.
because I'm sure I'm not the only one who's curious. So if you could boil down your take on the books for men topic, what conclusions did you arrive at on that?
Okay.
Because
You've
yeah,
got to you've got to buy into this idea. And
okay,
this idea is okay, take just for the sake of this discussion, take any characteristics of people, any
yeah,
of them, and
yeah,
think of them all, and just make a big pool, and for each of them, sort of say like in our from our understanding, from the way we think about men and women, is this like a masculine or a feminine thing? Just like do we associate this more with men or with women? So like compassion. We're all going to say, and that doesn't mean no men are compassionate and doesn't mean all women are compassionate, but we
right.
associate compassion with women, right? With it's part of
As a
our
more
culture.
feminine characteristic, I suppose.
Feminine might be the better way to put it.
Yeah,
Feminine, masculine, same idea, right?
yeah,
Physical violence, we associate that, and that some women are much more violent than some men, right?
yeah,
But clearly, we associate the propensity to violence with men, right? Coalition building, that's a woman thing, right? Dominance hierarchies, that's a man thing,
yeah.
right? Committees, a group, working together in a group, that's a woman thing, right? And this
Right.
isn't just
At
out
least
of my
as
head, right?
we construct it culturally, right?
Yeah, but this is almost universal. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not saying every culture does this, but it's across a broad number of cultures have this loose association, and no one thinks only men are violent, right? But everyone knows or
Right.
everyone associates it's more likely, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this, you look at feminist theorists like Simone de Beauvoir was saying this, right?
Mhm.
Who's taking care of the home? That's a woman. Like, who's going out and hunting or conquering the next village, capturing territory, right? That's a man thing.
Uh-huh.
Building, maintaining, that's a woman thing, right? Or a feminine thing. The exact term, whether you call it man, woman, or masculine, feminine, I don't care about that. But so
Right.
then look at a book and figure out in the book, how are the problems solved in this book? Is it
Uh-huh.
using male or masculine or feminine characteristics? So let's my favorite example, because it's the clearest, is Jack Reacher books. I don't know how much familiar
Uh-huh.
you are with Jack Reacher books, but Jack
Enough to
Reacher
probably
is
know the answer. Yeah. Yeah.
but Jack Reacher is the most masculine character you could
Yeah.
ever imagine in every way. He does
Normally
he
solve
not only
things like
not
this.
but he's but or with analysis, but he's not building a group or a coalition. He's a loner. He's the
Right.
lone wolf, right? He
Right.
doesn't care about relationships at all. He has
Huh.
people he loves, but if he doesn't see them for 5 years, he doesn't care.
Huh.
He does so little maintenance and care of his home. He's literally homeless. He
Hmm.
doesn't even wash his clothes. When his clothes get dirty, he throws them out and he buys new clothes at the thrift store. He doesn't even own a car, whether we have to get an oil change. He takes the bus.
Huh.
He doesn't even drive, right? In every conceivable way, he is on that crazy masculine end. And again, I'm not saying men are like this. I'm saying this is
Uh-huh.
all the traits we associate with masculinity.
Right.
And how does he solve his problems? He solves them using male traits. So in other words, it's a lot of punching and shooting, which we associate as male traits.
Right.
Now, you take a lot of my hypothesis when people talk about books for men, they're talking about books where problems are solved. It's always going to be on a scale. It's never rarely you're going to have as extreme an example as Jack
It's
Reacher.
a
But
spectrum. It's a spectrum. Yeah.
thank you. It is a spectrum, but generally, what people mean by books for men is books where problems are solved using masculine things, punching and the shooting and the
Right.
one person going out on their own and conquering the problem. And then a book for women will be like what's happening in a romance novel, right? Romance is people building by definition. What's the problem? The problem is these people are apart. The solution is they get together. How do they get together? Romance novels aren't they don't get together by punching and shooting, right? I mean, that
Right.
might be
Right.
that might be an aside in a certain kind of romance novel, but they get together by building a relationship, which is a feminine thing. It's a celebrating a feminine attribute in a romance novel. So those are not considered books for men. And I think what's historically happened is most books have been books for men, generally speaking. I mean, if you go back hundreds and thousands of years, right? Odysseus didn't, whatever, by Beowulf, didn't solve his problem by,
Yeah.
hugging it out with Grendel, right? Let's,
I mean, he did kind of hug Grendel's mother there, but it
well,
wasn't an infection. It wasn't exactly an
yeah. It
affectionate
wasn't,
embrace.
yeah, it wasn't an affection, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that there's been over the last, 50, 60 years there's sort of a progressive a take on this whole thing, which is when all the books, imagine you go in the bookstore and all the books are about problems being solved in masculine ways, right? The punching and the shooting and the lone wolf going out and solving the problem. What
Right.
effectively you are doing, if not explicitly, implicitly, you are devaluing the feminine ways of solving problems. You're devaluing the coalition building, the maintenance, the strengthening of interpersonal structures that are very important to society and functioning of society. But if all the problems are being solved in your fiction by the punching and the shooting, you're kind of saying that the other stuff isn't as important when in fact so a lot of feminist theorists have sort of said we should need more books where the problems are solved with the hugging. Hug.
Huh.
I don't. That
It's a
sounds very
metaphor.
flippant, right?
It's a
It's a
metaphor.
metaphor, not literal hugging, but coalition building. Even Babylon 5, the problems are solved by. I don't know if you have you seen Babylon 5, the show Babylon 5, but okay.
No. No.
Ultimately, in Babylon 5, the war was won. The Earth was saved not by bigger ships with bigger guns, but by the people involved really understanding what the disparate forces wanted and helping them come to an understanding that they didn't need to fight anymore, and that's how they beat the enemy. That is not Reacher. right? I don't think J. Michael Straczynski would think of it as feminine. I've never talked to the guy, right? I've never seen him describe it this way, but to me, Simone
Yeah,
de Beauvoir would call that feminine, right? Like,
sure.
in this very loose sort of philosophical sense of being feminine,
Well,
and so
take a book or series like Malazan Book of the Fallen. There's superficially you could say, oh, it's very masculine because there's all these explosions and fighting and dinosaurs with sword arms and it's all there. But at its heart, this is a story that explores connection and compassion, and that is fundamentally, I think, at a deeper understanding of that series would include that very feminine, and I don't mind using the word that way, that very feminine approach to problem solving. I would say my own trilogy is the same. I have
yeah,
tons of action and violence in there,
yeah.
but also I think you would probably, at the end of the day, get to the end of Return to Aden, and you're going to see that it's actually much more about heart and compassion and exploration and connection than anything
I mean,
else. But yeah.
Rohan is no Jack Reacher,
No,
right?
no, he's
I
not.
very deliberately made him a guy who's sort of like, I can do the like, I love that character. He's like, I can do the Jack Reacher thing. And to me, it's a helix. It means both sides are important. It means you're going
Yeah.
back and forth, right? The
Hybrid
helix means a
Helix.
lot. There's a reason I call it the hybrid helix. There's a lot of reasons I call it the hybrid helix, right? It's all the names of the books have multiple, can be read in at least two completely different ways to explain the story. But
Yes. So ascending, obviously being
Wistful is the ship,
the ship,
is the
but it also means
station,
a lot more than that. Yeah.
because but not just the station ascending in importance in in the sector politics because of these wormholes opening, but it's also Rohan is gaining is going back into a position of prominence, and he's wistful about it because that's
Yeah.
not what he wants,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So every title in my series has to have at least two meanings in a similar way. So
Yep.
that's one
Yep.
of my crazy constraints. But to me, it's all about like you have to have both. And I love those characters who can, like, I can build a coalition, but when necessary, I can shoot and punch really well,
Yeah.
right? And to me, that's the best kind of strength, and that's what you want in an actual living male. You don't want to be only a man of only masculine traits. I think is mostly dysfunctional. I don't think you wouldn't really want Jack Reacher for your best friend, right? Like you might want him around when you're being like when home invaders are at your front door. Yeah, you want Jack Reacher sleeping on your couch, right?
Yeah.
But in your regular everyday life, he's not going to be like a good asset in your existence.
It's interesting.
Actual actual men need to have this mix of
Yeah.
characteristics, and that's not putting down the masculine. Not we have to be all feminine. No, like women sometimes have to go out and like try something new, right? Which is a masculine thing in this very loose sense, right?
Oh, sure. When
But
I
men
think of
also,
what you're talking about makes a lot of sense when I think of some of my favorite series and books, like Malazan or Realm of the Elderlings is another one, where obviously there's a lot of the masculine in that series. There's a lot of pain and suffering and violence and all of that. And there's a character in the midst of it who's trying to figure everything out and often does so initially through a more masculine approach, but also learns a lot about the more feminine approach throughout the series.
right?
It changes as a result of that. And there is a lot of
Yeah.
exploration of, again, connection and the web of being and all of that, which of course I think I don't mind saying is a more feminine way of
Yeah.
understanding
Yeah.
existence, you know.
Yeah. I mean, you look at Jenny Wirtz's older stuff, right?
Words of Light
The
and Shadow
Empire.
too. Yeah, same thing.
But look at the Mistress of Empire, Daughter of Empire, that
Yep.
trilogy, right? It's
Yeah,
this
yeah.
character in this masculine dominated world in the sense that everything is resolved by swords, but
Yeah.
the main character, changes the world and has an impact on the world through not by becoming like because you could imagine a very similar kind of story where she becomes like an awesome swordswoman like Red Sonja and goes out and like chops up all the enemies, right? But
Yeah.
that's not what she does. She does things using feminine traits, stereotypically feminine traits, right? To
Right,
build
right.
coalitions and build associations and build these structures. And then those structures give her the manpower to go and do the sorting and the horsing and the chopping. But
Right.
she's not doing it herself, but she's creating situations where it can happen and saves her people, right? I read them when they came out. I have not reread them
Yeah.
since. It's been a while, but this is not Jenny Wirtz because that's what I think this is what some women dislike about some fantasy or science fiction books about female characters is that a
Uh-huh.
tendency is to make strong female characters mean masculine female characters
Right,
where
right.
the female characters are strong because they are good at the masculine stuff. They are good at the punching and the shooting. And
Right.
there's nothing inherently wrong with it, but the implication is that the only way to be strong is to be masculine strong, right?
Yeah.
The only way to be good and effective is to be masculine, good and effective. Whereas Mistress of Empire, I don't know that she ever really gets good with a sword. I don't remember, but like I don't. That wasn't like the plot,
Right.
right? It was that she's a strong character because she has a will and she's willing to make sacrifices and she's smart and she
Yeah.
does these feminine things, like I said, like building coalitions and understanding other people and work doing those things in a way that solves the problem, right? To me, the books are all like, there's a problem, you got to solve the problem. How do you solve the problem? And if it's all punching and shooting, book for men. So I'm not
Yeah.
against books for men. I think there is a problem socially when all the books are books for men, which is not where we are right now.
Right. Right. Right.
Right? I mean, I think we were. I think when I was young, it was more like that, right? You go back to like, 30s, 40s science fiction and largely books for men stuff. But then you can read Rory August wrote the book that won space SPSFC 2, and it was like alien invasion. And the book isn't about defeating the aliens; it's about coming to terms with the characters' own feelings and emotional state, knowing that they were sort of doomed,
Yeah.
right? And then there's this whole like trend among people talking about books, talking about some people talking about how some people in certain historically underprivileged minorities who write are often writing books where the characters can't solve their problems. It's about enduring, right? It's about surviving in the face of these impossible odds, not about overcoming them, because to certain people, certain populations, maybe it's really hard to stomach that. Like, oh, great, they win in the end. Well, of course they do. That's what you would write, but that's not our reality. So I don't
Yeah.
know. To me, these things all tie together.
Yeah.
And,
No.
it, and it's easy to overreact and say, oh, there are no books for men anymore. Well, of course there are. That's ridiculous. Like maybe not at Target, but there are plenty of books for men still out there.
And God,
But
you know what? There seem to be a lot of good books, great books for people, you know? Like,
well,
whoa,
yeah,
these
yeah,
series we're
yeah.
talking, like Wars of Light and Shadow by Jenny Wirtz.
Oh yeah, yeah.
There's a
I need to
wonderful
get to those.
combination of the masculine and the feminine in one
Yeah, yeah,
story where you have all kinds of swashbuckling, but you also have this exploration of magic, particularly as based on a system of consent, right? And
right,
yeah, I
right.
mean, it's fantastic.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
books for people. How about those? Yeah,
Books for people. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Well, I think it is also it does a disservice to men to imply that men only like books where the problems are all solved with guns and fists,
yeah,
right? Like that's that gets my hackles up a little bit. It's like,
yeah.
I don't know. The implication there I find a little bit offensive might be too strong a term, but it annoys me. It
I mean,
annoys
I
me.
just read Conan. I read Conan,
Yeah,
The Hour of the Dragon, and you appreciate Conan as well.
yeah, yeah. It's
And
been a while, but yes, very much.
yeah, but even there in The Hour of the Dragon or Conan the Conqueror, as it's also called, I was surprised how often Conan was completely dependent on a female character to help him. Like he would have been totally totally and just gut dead without a female character helping him out. Happened more than once, and I'm wondering, interesting. I mean, I wonder if Robert E.
Yeah,
Howard, everybody knows about his background and his how close he was
yeah.
to his mother and all of that, and why he ultimately took his life and everything after losing his mother. But you got to wonder, okay, even what we think of as this uber masculine story, it's a little more. There's more to it than just,
It's more to it. Yeah.
yeah, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
I feel it would be really worth it for someone to go and piece together the common perception of Conan versus what the stories actually hold, because I think they
Yeah.
are very divergent. And I don't exactly know where that comes from. I think it comes from the movies and the comic books more than the stories. So
Yeah.
people talk about what Conan is. They're talking more about Arnold Schwarzenegger than about Robert E. Howard. Nothing
Right.
against Arnold.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
but I feel like I would need to, because when I was younger, I would often read stories like that, and I didn't really care what was happening in the story. I was looking for the parts that I liked, which was Conan cutting things up with a sword, and I would
Right.
sort of almost not exactly skim through the other parts, but I wasn't really thinking about them
Yeah.
because to me it's like, oh, Like I was like, I'm a kid and I got these problems, but this guy, when he has problems, he cuts them up with a sword, and that sounds fantastic. That's the kind of stories I like,
Yeah.
right? So I would read those stories with that lens, and like I don't have exactly that same lens anymore. I would be tempted to go through and read some of them again, but there's
Yeah.
a lot of stuff to read.
So much to read, so little
You know,
time.
it's like
Yeah.
on the list. I want to reread Malazan because I read the 10 books. It took me like a year. And again, that's another thing where I felt like I didn't have enough time. Like if I'd been able to spend an hour and a half a day reading and gone through the 10 books, I would have enjoyed it more. I loved it, but I would have gotten more out of it if it had not been so many like literal like days between, it really was like a year to get through all 10. And
Sure.
that
Yeah.
wasn't ideal because I missed things because I got to the end of the book and I was like, there are whole plot lines where I don't really understand how they connect. Like
Uh-huh.
I don't, there's whole characters. I'm like, I don't. This guy was in every book or in half the books, but I don't know what he did that had anything to do with the overall story. And it
Uh-huh.
must have been something. I missed it. Right. I'm not accusing Erickson of failing. I'm just like I clearly just missed it. So
There are
I
a
need to
lot
go
of moving
back.
parts. A lot of moving parts there. Yeah.
It's
And
funny
some of them
how
won't make sense completely until you read some of the other Malazan series, like novels of the Malazan Empire, where you get, oh, that's what happened to that plot.
yeah,
It goes over
yeah,
there, kind of.
yeah.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
one influence I'll say Malazan had on me was it gave me some courage to explain less.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Which again I don't think I'm an Ericksonian writer in
Right.
general. And no one's going to
Right.
compare our prose,
Yeah.
but or anything. But sort of that people will read if you don't hand them everything. And one thing
They
that I try to do is
actually get more invested even sometimes because
I
they're more
think
active readers, you know?
yeah, and it draws you in, right? I think you can draw a reader through with tension or with curiosity.
Yeah.
Maybe some other stuff too, but I mean, my goal as a writer is to try to do. You're not as tense reading my books. It doesn't feel like at any moment, oh, everyone's going to die. Like the roof is about to fall and like they're on the edge of the cliff and they're hanging from a rope and like how are they going to like it's most of the book is not like that. What I'm trying to draw you through is I wonder what's happening next. Like what's going on? I'm curious. I don't know the whole story. So I'm trying to draw you through with that. It's just a different emotional mechanism to drive you through the story, to make you turn the page.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and part of that is not putting everything down, right? Because every info dump is answering a bunch of questions that weren't even raised, right? But then you read the info dump and you're full, right? It's like you just had a big meal and you just want to take a nap
Yeah.
and put the book down. But if you instead of answering a bunch of questions, you raise some, maybe answer a couple, but raise some. Now I want to turn the page and see what is this? What is this thing? So that's a
Yeah, you always hear the expression show don't tell, but
yeah.
oftentimes I think you could even say suggest don't tell, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny how yeah, I was reading I and then it's also funny because sometimes you'll do that and then people will be like, well, there's no interdimension to these characters. And I'm like, well, there's no it's not on the page. I don't know if that's I don't know if I was reading A Legend of Brightwash by Crystal Matar and
Uh-huh.
she really goes into like there'll be long descriptions of what the characters are thinking and feeling. And I
Uh-huh.
read her book and it was great. It's wonderful, right? But I'm like, I don't do any of that.
Uh-huh.
I just have like Rohan scratches beard and I just you have to assume he's going through
That
this
beer
mental
scratching
gymnastics.
means a lot, people. When we're doing this,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah,
there's
yeah.
something deep is happening in here, you know? So,
Rohan's beard is like Harry Dresden's hat. Okay.
uh-huh. Yeah.
Because we have the same cover artist, Chris McGrath, the Harry Dresden novels of
Oh,
Jim
wow.
Butcher, and
Uh-huh.
the most of the all but book six have Chris McGrath, and he did the cover, and I was like, Rowan's supposed to have a beard, and he like took the art back and he sent it back to me, and he may have drawn like three dots. I don't know what he did, but he did hardly any changes.
Huh.
So he's got a slightly shadowy, but doesn't really have a beard in any of the covers, and I just gave up. Like you can't do it. And it's the same thing with Harry Dresden's hat. In the books, he never has a hat. But Chris McGrath drew him with a hat for book one. And now every cover, he's got the big floppy hat, but it's a very distinctive, like characteristic hat. And I
Yes.
watched Jim Butcher at like some interviews, like, that damn hat. He doesn't have a hat. Why does he have a hat on every cover? I feel you, Jim. I got the same thing. The missing beard, the hat, same problem. It's
That
like
is
Chris
so
McGrath's a
funny.
brilliant, brilliant artist, but he's going to do what he's going to do. So
Yeah. Well, that's what brilliant artists get to do. So, yeah.
I give him very little in the way of briefs, and he just comes out with magic, and I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? I can't argue with that.
Yeah.
He's phenomenal. But that's all. The cover art's a whole different complex conversation. Um,
It is. I've had these conversations.
but you have great covers.
Well, I love my covers.
Oh, I love them.
They're distinct. I'll give them that. There aren't.
Yeah.
I've noticed some people doing some stained glass covers since then, and I'm sure I wasn't the
Yes.
first. I'm sure I wasn't the firt, but you know,
Every time I see one now, I'm like, I know what you're doing there, buddy.
maybe I'm biased, but yeah, no, a good cover's a really important thing, of course, because people do judge the books by their covers. And
Oh
I'm
yeah.
not sure my covers are the best in that sense, in that do the cover. So another thing, I had a great conversation with a renowned artist, cover artist, and on my channel, and Jenny Wirtz's husband, actually.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, he's just brilliant, and his one of the things he was talking about is how he will actually read the whole book, and one of his primary jobs is to convey the book in that image, right?
Yeah.
So that's also part of what you need to do with the cover. And, so you can have an awesome cover, but does it actually tell the reader what this book is? So that's really important.
I mean, giving a good brief to a cover artist is a skill. I
Don
do not
Mates, by
have
the way,
it.
I didn't say his name. Don Mates is the name of the
Yes,
artist.
yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really bad at that. I've had enough bad covers made that no one has ever seen, right?
Uh-huh.
Because I was like, oh God, the person did exactly what I said to do, and it's awful, right? Like, I mean, I was smart enough to figure that out and just not use the cover.
Yeah.
But it's funny because when Return of the Griffin, right? So very, very angry. So I'm explaining to Chris, I'm like, okay, so the Earth is invaded by giant walking sharks. And he's like, oh, so it's like goofy, right? It's like a comedy. And I'm like, no, no, the sharks are completely stone cold serious. It's like Godzilla movie, like the original Godzilla movie.
Yeah.
Right, because we sometimes you can look at the later Godzilla movies and it's like a guy in a rubber suit and it's kind of goofy, but the first one was meant to be terrifying. Whether you were terrified or not, it was
Right.
meant to be terrifying, right? It was not meant to be silly and goofy and oh, look at the model they made of Tokyo, right? So I'm like, that's the tone I want. And he's like, oh, because you never read any of my books, which is fine. That's not the
Uh-huh.
commercial reality for most of us,
Yeah.
where they're reading the whole book. Usually, like Jeff Brown does, he's done like 1,000 covers and in the
He can't
last
read
like
all those books. Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
no way. There's no way. He wouldn't have time to do any of the covers,
Right.
So he's a good guy. I hung out with. He was also at Worldcon. He's worth hanging out with if you're ever in a place. You got to come to Montreal. We're all gonna harass you to try to get to
Yeah, there was talk
Montreal
of
at
some
Worldcon.
party bus or something.
I was, if not for the border, I would be super tempted to actually try to manage that. But I feel like but here's the thing. Do you really want to cross an international border with a bunch of other people on a bus where like if one person's passport is messed up, the whole bus gets
No.
held up, right? No one wants to do that. But if it were like in Vermont,
Yeah.
Worldcon, I'd be
Oh,
much more tempted
yeah.
to get a
There will
party
never be
bus.
a Worldcon in Vermont, unfortunately. Uh, I
Oh,
wish. Come on, Worldcon people, are you watching? How about Burlington, Vermont?
I
Nice.
think Burlington. I think what has to happen is people in Burlington would have to like put together a proposal and bring it to Worldcon. I think it starts with the locale. It's not Worldcon deciding where they're going to. People make bids. It's like the Olympics, I think.
Oh, okay.
So like in town, I mean, it's much on a infinitely smaller scale
Yeah.
because Worldcon's like it's like 10,000 people or 8,000 people.
I mean, that's pretty
But
big. But yeah.
no, no, it was a lot. It was an opportunity to talk about that, have that community thing you were talking about on a certain scale, where
Yeah.
you're in rooms with all these people and it's not that you can't have the video conversations are wonderful, but having everyone in a place is an additional kind of vibe. So
Yeah. Yeah, for
I
sure.
had we had a lot of fun with that. Had a lot of fun with that.
It takes
So
a lot to drag me out of my house. I might show up at one of these things. Yeah.
I'm an extrovert. I think the first
Uh,
Dragon Con convinced me to keep writing, or at least convinced me that it was worth it.
yeah.
Because the thing was at that point where I was finding the commercial success was not what I had hoped for, but the community was more than I had hoped for.
Yeah.
Right? Like I never imagined before releasing any books, I never imagined I could have this much like sort of critical relationships with people and this many connections with people and this much like stuff going on and not make money, which isn't a complaint. It's just sort of a like, I thought the money would come and then maybe I know meet a bunch of people like at a con, and instead I met a lot of people, like much more rewarding personal relationships than I ever expected. And I
Yeah.
expected some of that to happen, but I didn't expect it at the level at which it's happened. So
Yeah.
that was incredibly lovely to have that experience. And
I
then
do.
you know,
Even though I'm an introvert, I do appreciate that and love that.
well, you can't be that much of an introvert. You're willingly putting yourself on these calls with with people. I don't know.
Yeah,
You
but you know what's
are.
easier for me, Joe, is one-on-one. Groups of two, three, four. I love that. I love people on that level. But when you get me in a room with 100 or more people, I'm like,
Uh,
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 yeah.
yeah,
It's
Worldcon
just
people are saying how
draining.
like,
I'm exhausted. It
yeah,
exhausts
no,
me.
that's what an introvert is, right?
Yeah,
It drains you. I just got tired because of physically being on my feet and drinking too much, and
I'll do it.
I got You'll understand this. I got September teacher voice
Uh-huh.
after 2 days at Worldcon because I was basically engaged in conversation 12
All the
hours a
time.
day, which
Yeah.
is not my normal life, right? So it
Yeah.
reminded me of when I was in school. You go to in September, you go back in front of the classroom, and especially a high school teacher, right? I'm teaching 5 classes a day,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
After
yeah.
not talking all summer because I'm just home by
Yeah.
myself, like
Yeah. Yeah.
playing video games, and then so
Yeah.
2 days at second day at Worldcon, I had lost my voice. People are like, "Are you okay?"
I've been to enough academic conferences
Oh yeah,
that, and I'm, again, it's a great way to network and meet people and just
yeah,
appreciate people from a distance. But I have to just retreat to my room, a lot and just like, you know, get my energy
Pe-
back to a level where I can, be
yeah,
social
yeah.
again,
No, I get it. I don't share that, but I get it. Like I heard enough people saying at Worldcon, man, it was great, but after a while, I just needed to like go up to like the fourth floor and be alone. Like there was like a less populated
Yeah.
floor of the convention center, and I'm like, oh, not me. I just wanted a place to sit down in the center of everybody because my
Yeah.
feet hurt and I was tired. And you get the time change. It was great. Anyway, all right. I will not harass you about going to Montreal. You
Oh, well,
you can
I mean,
freely.
part of me really does want to go. So, yeah.
Well, then I hope you do.
One day that part will win out,
Yeah, I might just drive up. I don't know. Because it's like a
It's
feasible
drivable from where we are. Yeah.
from where we are. Yeah, I'm like an hour, a little over an hour north of New York City. So
Yeah. You
for
may
me,
be a
it's
little
not so
closer
bad.
than me. Yeah. I just head
Yeah,
up
yeah,
287 and 87, boom, all the way to Montreal, really. So, yeah.
yeah. I'm like 10 minutes from the 87.
Okay.
Like take the 87, make a right, 10 minutes, cross the river,
Oh,
and you're
yeah.
at my
You'd get
house.
there in maybe like 6 hours, I'm guessing.
Yeah, maybe less. I think less.
Even less.
I mean, I haven't done it. I haven't done it, but yeah, no, it's nice. Yeah, the farthest north I've ever lived, and well, farthest north I've lived recently. And then I remember we went to Buffalo, and it took like 5.5 hours. And I'm like, it's really when once you're north of the city, because
Yeah.
I grew up in Brooklyn, and like everything is like you got to get through the city, and then you can you're on the road. But
Yeah.
that first bit can take 2 hours. It can take
Oh,
30
don't I know
minutes.
it? Yeah. Well, my daughter lives in the city, and I had to drive her into the city every Saturday when she was in high school. So yeah, I know
Yeah, yeah,
how
for
traffic is in New York City. Yeah.
the cello stuff, right? I
Yeah,
remember.
yeah, at Juilliard. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Chile. Yeah, yeah, I remember you talking about this.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm going to be driving by your house today, so more or
Nice,
less.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
wave when you go
I'll
by.
wait, I'll wait from the from the Garden State Parkway, Philip.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Awesome,
well,
awesome.
I gotta. Speaking of which, I gotta let you go pretty soon because you do have some driving to do. But
I do.
Joe, this has been a blast. This has been a lot
I
of fun.
can't thank you enough. It's been
Yeah.
looking forward to this for. Did I say this on air? Did I say it off the air? But there are certain reviewers where their approval, you always thrilled when anyone appreciates your book, anyone, any
Of
reader,
course.
regardless. It's always a wonderful thing. But sometimes when people get certain aspects of it that you were either that you wanted to be there or that you were afraid weren't there,
Yeah.
and then someone gets that, it's an extra level of satisfaction. So I'm deeply grateful for that, and I'm a huge fan of your stuff. So I've
Oh,
been watching your videos for a couple years. I think not since I actually never saw your Malazan stuff. I
when
think
it came
you because
out. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think I was. I don't think I had any. I don't think I was connected to BookTube in any way when those came out, right? And then
Oh, okay.
I never really dug into everyone's early stuff the way I probably should. Maybe the next time I reread, when I finally reread Malazan, I'll go and watch those. And
Yeah.
I got into BookTube because of Raph Blue Text of all people.
Oh,
I
no
watched
kidding.
one of his things about Malazan, and then somehow, YouTube. Once you watch one kind of video, they start
Yeah.
giving
Yeah.
and then you start seeing people or guests on each other's videos and it sort of balloons from
Yeah.
there, but it
Yeah.
was later in the game. I wasn't it was after I started writing. I wasn't really a YouTube guy at all before that.
Huh. Well, you
So
never
it's been
know.
a super pleasure for me, and thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Oh man, the pleasure and honor were mine. And everybody, there will be a link to Joe's channel, and
thank you.
also check out the Hybrid Helix series. Wistful Ascending was a wonderful read. I had a great time
Thank you.
following Rohan's adventures, and I'm looking forward to more of those. And I can vouch for the audiobook quality as well. Was just great. So yeah, your narrator did a really great job there. So
Wayne
yeah,
Farrell.
yeah. But
Thank you
that
so much.
is, yeah, all my pleasure. But that is it from us for now. Till next time.